Well, Count, looks like it's time for a showdown.
All right, challenge accepted.
The Count's got a reputation as a playboy.
Playboy? Just like me.
You can stop the sweet talk. I know you came for Clarice.
That devil stole something precious and priceless. Your heart, my lady.
You heard it up top. We're about to engage in a little heisting as we talk anime in a first as we move to our long-form coverage and discuss Hayao Miyazaki's Lupin the Third's The Castle of Cagliostro here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, the Colin of Cagliostro.
Okay, I'll be Mike Pin the Third at your service.
And this is Jacob the Third.
All right, there we
go with that. You know, my grandfather was named Jacob as well.
Jacob
We'd
the
love to see
First.
it.
That's right.
Think of the handles.
Yeah, Lupin the Third. Yeah, we're starting a new long form series, and we were talking about, we finished our year-long ape extravaganza, and we're thinking, what should we do next? Should we do X-Men? Should we do some other franchise we haven't talked about yet? And then I sort of had this idea, maybe we just do the whole filmography of a filmmaker, and one that we all like to different degrees or have experience with, and is someone that I just wanted to talk about on this pod, and we haven't had the chance to yet. So I thought this is a great opportunity. We can do a long form series and cover all of his films. And that, of course, is Hayao Miyazaki, the great Japanese animator.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think generational kind of creator. I haven't seen all of his movies, which is why I'm looking forward to going through and finally seeing all of them. This is one of the few that I had seen, but I'm excited to go through, like chronologically his releases. And it's interesting kind of starting here and seeing things and themes that might appear in all of his other movies or not. Like, seeing where the DNA is.
So are there planes in this movie, Mike?
Are there weird planes?
That's right.
We've dabbled with this format a little in that we did our Tim Burton sort of mini series.
Right,
It's kind of the first
Tim
time
Burton.
we talked about a director, but now, yes, shifting our long form where again we've done Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, the big franchises, and now we're kind of going to the big man himself of anime, a very scarcely touched topic on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the main reasons I want to talk about Miyazaki is because if you look at his filmography, I would put it up against any filmmaker, any director, in terms of quality. There's no skips. It's all bangers. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Hey.
If you look at anyone who's worked long enough, they're going to have some, lesser works. Except I would put it up there with like Paul Thomas Anderson, who I think has like a impeccable filmography. He's never made a bad film. Like I think my least favorite Miyazaki films are maybe Ponyo or Laputa, Castle in the Sky. And I don't think either of those are bad movies. They're just kind of my least favorite. So even his worst is like pretty good still.
Yeah, I think, Jacob, the one people might consider a skip would be this film we're about to talk about today, since it's sort of his only entry into something he doesn't sort of fully own. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about that once we dive in. But first,
this is his first film.
Here,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
well, what is your relationship to Hayao Miyazaki, Jacob?
Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of him. I just want to say up top.
Remember the first you saw?
Well, let me think. Probably Spirited Away when I was a young lad. I was like, what's this Spirited Away that everyone's talking about? Maybe I'll check that out. So I believe that was my first Miyazaki. And then, of course, as I got older, I started to delve into his filmography more in Studio Ghibli. And I'm a big fan of all of his movies. And I recently, last December 2020, I guess it was 2022, December 2022, I rewatched his whole filmography except for this film, which this is my first viewing. I'll just say that up top.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, of this one. This one's the only Miyazaki that I haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to talk about it, and it was a great first watch.
Yeah, this is the one that's it's based on a previously established IP. None of his other stuff does that, so I could see why like a lot of people would skip it. But I'm excited.
I think it's important to see where he got his start and what led to. I mean, this is pre him forming Studio Ghibli.
Yes, pre Ghibli. That's important. To point
But I'll talk a little bit up top about how he came up, Miyazaki, and how he relates to the franchise, the IP of Lupin the Third. And I wanted to ask you guys, what's your relationship to Lupin the Third as a character? Are you familiar with him at all? Have you seen his other media at all? Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first Lupin thing I was ever exposed to in my life, and I never really watched the shows. And I did watch the live action Japanese movie, like on a plane.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
very different, kind of from this. So I don't really know much about Lupin. This is kind of the only exposure I have. What about you, Colin?
Right.
French gentleman thief character. I guess I kind of just knew the idea of that, and for some reason, when I was a kid, I would always mix him up with the other anime character, Detective Conan. For some reason, the child.
Yeah, and they had
detective,
Yeah,
very
they actually
prominent.
had a crossover film. There was Lupin the Third versus Detective
What?
Conan. Yeah.
What?
Maybe that's
Okay.
what I saw as a kid for some reason.
Then this
I don't
combined.
know.
Yeah, Lupin the Third. I can say a little bit of his history too. He was adapted from the French master thief character Arsène Lupin. Canonically, he's his grandson, Lupin the Third, right?
Mhm.
Which did cause a problem with a rights issue in Western
Oh.
markets when they released it, because they did not. So the creator of Lupin the Third, Monkey Punch,
Mhm.
He punch.
aka Kazuhiko Kato, is the one who created. He's a manga artist who created Lupin the Third. He did not get the rights to use the name Lupin from the French creator of Arsène Lupin or his estate.
Mhm.
And so when they released it in Western audiences, English dubs and stuff, they have to call him Wolf or Rupan. So if
Wow.
you listen to the English dub of this movie, they call him Wolf in the whole movie. So
Whoa.
Wow.
yeah, but he was
That's
created in
interesting.
1967 as a manga at first, and then adapted into an anime that I think had like 3 seasons in the 60s, and then of course has been adapted many times over for different films, series, live action films, OVAs, like a ton of Lupin works over the last really 50 years, like a long time, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess the original Lupin I saw like would battle Sherlock Holmes and outwit him, and like, so it's set in the
Yeah.
1800s. So they were like, what if we just brought it to the 60s, modern day, and it's Lupin the Third? And
Yeah.
Right.
that's
The
kind of
original
idea.
Lupin was to France what basically Sherlock Holmes was to England, where he was this character created a long time ago by Maurice Leblanc. And he sort of has lasted this whole time. And that's where Monkey Punch got the idea to make Lupin the Third
Yeah.
based on that. Yeah.
So here we are with a French piece of novel inspiring a franchise created by someone named Monkey Punch. It's very similar to Pierre Boulez, Planet of the
Right.
Apes.
Yes.
We
Oh,
can't
wow.
escape it. The Genesis.
Oh wow, Mike.
We're still here. Monkey Punch in his
That's
world.
true. Monkey Punch.
That's so cool.
But yeah, Lupin the Third is really an institution in Japan, as you know, as much as like maybe the Looney Tunes or something like that in America, or a specific character or something. But yeah, and Miyazaki obviously is an institution too. So it's the meeting of these two institutions. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk about it. Should we jump over and
Let's
let's
real
talk
quick,
about it?
Mike. Do you remember your first one? I want to wrap up that.
My
thread
first
real quick.
Oh,
Miyazaki.
yes.
Yeah.
My first Miyazaki was Princess Mononoke, and then I saw this, but when I saw it at that time, I didn't know it was a Miyazaki movie. I just thought it was a Lupin movie that my friend got a hold of when we watched one night at like a sleepover. So
Oh,
this is
that's
my first time
fortuitous.
going into it looking for his trade hallmarks, so that's going to be cool.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll say on the character of Lupin, I'm not super familiar with Lupin the Third. I was familiar with him as like a franchise, an IP, but I have not seen much of his work. Although for this viewing, I'm just going to say I watched the Castle of Cagliostro. I also watched the first animated movie that they made a year prior, The Mysteries of Mamo, and I wanted to watch
Okay.
that just to get a sort of baseline for what a non-Miyazaki Lupin the Third movie is like, and then to
Sure.
compare them.
That's wild, dog.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to have to loop us in, loop in the rest
That's
of
right.
us on the history. But yeah, I'm excited to jump in. Let's do it. There's a weird looking airplane over here. I think we can get there,
If either of you guys watched the Netflix live action Omar
Lupin.
Sy French
Watched a couple
Lupin.
episodes of it.
I haven't seen it. Oh, let's talk about
Yeah.
it on the pod.
True.
Though.
Well, we're back. We're talking about it right now.
That's right.
on
The
Normies Like
French
Us.
adaptation of Lupin, which is based on the Netflix adaptation, which is based on the French character Lupin,
The
Arsène Lupin,
original.
the gentleman thief. Yes.
But they did a modern day version of it, similar to like what the BBC did with Sherlock with Benedict
Right.
Cumberbatch. So like, what if we did a modern day revitalization of Lupin, our beloved guy?
Yes. Which I haven't seen, but I did hear of.
There's a couple
Um,
episodes, but I like the third Lupin the most. I think.
yeah. And like I was saying, there's been a ton of adaptations, different movies and stuff over the years, live action movies. Even in 2019, there was like a CG animated Lupin.
That's
So
right.
his personality and his look and everything kind of changes based on who's writing it, who's behind it. So like Miyazaki's interpretation of Lupin the Third is actually very different than his standard interpretation, where so it's a little controversial, even though Cagliostro is kind of considered by most people like the best Lupin movie. He's more gentlemanly, he's more honorable in this than he is in most works, where he's a bit more of a scoundrel, and he's more horny, I'll say. He's more of a womanizer a lot of times,
Right.
and doing some kind of scumbag stuff sometimes. So he's seen as more of the gallant hero in this one. That's sort of Miyazaki's interpretation.
Okay,
Of
yeah, because I saw like this is a film on the fan base. They're like, that's not our Lupin. Like you killed our boy.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to hear. How was Mamo like comparative in the interpretation?
It was interesting. I mean, I liked it too. It's not as good as Cagliostro, I don't think, both in the story and the animation quality.
Mm,
But I think it's closer to the interpretation of Lupin from the manga and the anime, where he's definitely more. He's not. Yeah, he's just not as gentlemanly. He's more of he's a thief. He's not a good guy, and he's kind of an anti-hero almost at times. But
mm,
that one felt very James Bondish, where it's sort of this globe-trotting adventure. Um, Fujiko, his on again, off again love interest,
mm-hmm.
is sort of very Bond girl coded in that movie. The villain is like a Bond villain. He's like this rich, reclusive guy who lives on a private island and stuff. So,
A
and there's
very
also a lot of
Goldfinger,
weird,
yeah.
yeah, there's some really weird elements. Like there's cloning. The Philosopher's Stone is all wrapped up in this crazy plot.
I
But
love it.
A
yeah,
National
there's some
Treasure
supernatural
levels.
aspects. Yeah,
That sounds
Yeah.
great.
it's very interesting. There's also like full on nudity and like
Mm.
adult situations and stuff, which this movie does not have at all, of course.
Well, again, I might be renting that film. Now, the issue, like you're saying, is when I watch this movie, I do fall in love with this guy as a character, and it would bug me to watch something where he's not like this.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
really like this interpretation of Lupin, where he's this gentleman thief, and he's rescuing the princess's honor and stuff, and he enjoys doing thief stuff, but he's also like just likes helping people out that are good
Yeah,
people.
the
Yeah.
twist that Miyazaki's done here is to take this sort of new age James Bond character, who the character of Lupin is a master thief who always leaves the calling card of the crime he's about to commit. He's so talented, he can directly call it out. And where in the past, it has been things of, I will rob the crown jewels, I will rob, this billionaire, I will take your whole
Right.
island from you. For this, it is, I will steal a kiss from a pretty girl. And
Yeah.
it has that energy while also being one of the most visually exciting films I've ever seen in my life, with like incredible action sequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can definitely see the beginning, like the inspirations of Miyazaki's later movies in themes and in the art style and everything. You can see like, oh, this Miyazaki guy, like he's got something going on. Like I think he's going places. I don't know.
Yeah. And I guess that they had 7 months to make this too. So they were always on a huge
Mm.
time crunch to get these
Yeah.
backgrounds and do all these scenarios. They were busting their ass, but they were like, we want to make it right. At least that's what I've seen in my research. So they really worked hard on this to get the first one out and to make one that's, in my opinion, this good. It's very good, obviously. But it still has its trademarks, which I enjoy. You see
Yeah.
like Lupin characters have to look like Lupin traditionally, but like a lot of the background characters, the extras, right? They do have that Miyazaki style creeping in of kind of the way he draws
Yeah.
his characters down the road. So it's gonna be fun
Definitely.
to dive into.
And to talk a little about Miyazaki, he actually got his start. One of the first things he worked on was animating for the Lupin the Third anime in the '60s. So he kind of took over along with Isao Takahata, who was Miyazaki's like basically closest partner creatively. He directed Grave of the Fireflies and some other movies for
Mm-hmm.
Studio Ghibli. He unfortunately passed away in 2018.
Mm.
But the two of them kind of took over for the later episodes of Lupin the Third anime. And so when they wanted to make a movie, the second movie, they're like, let's get these two guys to come back and oversee it.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
Lupin the
yeah.
Third is very important for his early work as an artist, pre-forming Studio Ghibli and all that. It's where he got his start. So pretty
Yeah, I
interesting.
guess it's my understanding he was an in-between animator, so they have keyframes,
Mhm.
and then he has to just basically do the busy work of getting from the keyframes in between. Like that was very entry-level animation work that he started doing.
Right.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's because he was extremely hard on himself, Mike. He
Yeah.
very much believed that he had no talent on doing faces. He found the
Mm.
human body to be extremely hard to animate, but was very good at doing in-betweeners, filling in those frames, as you're saying.
Ah,
And we're
gotcha.
going to talk a lot about Miyazaki as a person and as an artist over this series, but he's definitely a perfectionist and not only demands perfection of himself, but also his employees, the people he works with. And so he's a
Hmm.
very demanding boss, I would say, or a very demanding director. He expects perfection at all times because he's such a perfectionist. He's so hard on himself that he's also hard on others.
And I think that's one of the key things is the Miyazaki meme is he makes these kind of fun like romps that are very like not light, but it's like they have this energy and positivity, but he himself is very like negative and stern and like rigid. He's hard on himself, but he it's the kind of the juxtaposition of his
Yes.
personality and his work.
We're not fully at the point where he's releasing movies and threatening to retire after every one and smoking 400 cigarettes and talking about how his
Mm-hmm.
son has failed humanity. That's not
Mm-hmm.
the man we're at yet. Obviously, again, this being his first film, he is developing all those things. But like
Yeah.
Jacob said, this film is littered with references to him, himself, his life, his point of view, everything about him. And it's a really fun and cool place to like kick off your career, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly. And it's
Yeah.
like you get to send a love letter to what broke the career and, just see what you can do.
Yeah.
And Mike, on the subject you were talking about the meme of Miyazaki, his personality differing from his art so much. There's a funny meme of like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, contrasting him with Junji Ito, who makes very dark, like horror, fucked up manga.
Uzumaki. Yeah.
But his personality, he's very positive, kind of nice guy. So um,
Yes.
the two of them, their work are basically complete opposites, but their personalities are complete
There's
opposites.
also the two Miyazakis with Hayao and Hideaki from Dark Souls, where Hideaki
Right.
Miyazaki is very upbeat and nice, but he makes Dark Souls, and then Hayao is very angry and makes Ponyo. It's like, yep, inside
Yeah.
each of us are two
Exactly.
Miyazakis.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro. So of course, in all Lupin media, he needs his recurring characters. Of course, Inspector Zenigata, who is the sort of hapless inspector that's constantly trying to catch Lupin, but Lupin is always one step ahead of him. And they'll
Mm-hmm.
fight each other to the ends of the earth. They're like Batman and the Joker.
Yeah.
Um, and then he has his crew, of course, Daisuke Jigen
Mm-hmm.
and Goemon Ishikawa, the samurai, as well as Fujiko Mine, who's, again, his sort of on again, off again love interest, who sometimes works with them, sometimes works against Lupin or tricks Lupin and steals whatever he was trying to steal.
He's like a
Um,
Catwoman, maybe, type of thing.
yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like,
Just real quick, my
mm,
only sort of like touchstone again for these characters are a video game we've talked in the past, Persona 5, where the
oh, yeah.
Phantom
Mm,
Thieves, who are of course gentlemen thieves who
yes.
steal your
Have a
heart and
calling
do these
card.
like very silly things, leave a calling card to tell you what's going on. And in that, you have these personas, which are the ghosts of your actual heart, these sort of manifestations of who you are. And the unnamed lead character, of course, Persona's name is Arsene,
Oh.
and his best friend Yusuke is named Gaomon. So this
Hey.
sort of representation of traditional Japan, the ancient samurai character who
Mm-hmm.
was a historical fiction character. Again, Monkey Punch is kind of like going like, what if these characters all met
Yeah.
up? He's sort of making his own League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is
Right.
very weird.
Yeah.
Well, from what I've read, like Jigen is like the trigger man. He's like the gun guy in the crew. And so when Monkey Punch was creating this character, he's like, I need like a traditional Japanese character because I have all these Western archetypes. I've got the gunslinger, I've got the, master thief. I need a samurai. So he created Goemon.
Right.
But yeah, for Persona, I can see a lot of inspiration in Persona from Lupin. And
Oh, yes.
Lupin is very just inspirational in the same way that James Bond are influential. James Bond or any long running franchise like that, he's just been very influential. The style of him, all that stuff.
Yeah, I was mentioning off pod, like Cowboy Bebop, Spike Spiegel is very, very Lupin inspired, like even down to the way he dresses. So he's left his mark. And even
And
going
even
Hold
like
on,
the
right
jazz,
there.
the jazz
Look, yeah.
soundtrack and everything.
But based on how somebody's dressed, real quick, listeners, you're not getting the full story
yes.
here.
We've
Viewers,
got our own
you
thief
gotta look
here.
at our own little our master.
I had to get dressed up for this occasion. We're just talking about Miyazaki. It's a big deal, but thank you for commenting on
You've
that.
stolen my heart, Mike.
I got a tie bar
In
and
my
everything.
ring.
And my Capricorn ring.
That's right.
Um,
No, you're looking like $1 million. I hope it's
Well, that's
not
what I stole. so.
counterfeit though.
Hopefully it's not counterfeit Gothic money. But I want to mention on Goemon real quick, a historical note. Goemon is kind of like Japanese Robin Hood. He's like a bandit samurai. So it fits to pull Goemon into the crew of the Master Thief thing just a little.
Yeah.
And he is Goemon the Eighth, is that correct? We're even again
Oh.
sort of getting a lineage.
I don't know
sure.
if that's explicit, but that would make sense. Yeah, like Goemon.
I believe I saw that on the Wikipedia.
That's cool. Okay, no, I love that then.
Yeah.
Cool.
I believe he is, yes.
And then, well, also,
Chikawa.
yeah, and last
Yeah.
note, Jet definitely has a lot of Jigen in him with his beard,
Hey, look, Jigen's my favorite character. in
Yeah,
this
I love
whole movie.
Jigen.
I gotta
Great.
point that out.
He's got his
quick.
hat and his
Trigger
his
Man,
hat over his
when
eyes.
he shoot that sniper rifle, and then later when they're in the car and you see all the cigarettes crammed into the ashtray, and he picks up one of the used ones and starts smoking it. I was like, Jigen's the best.
That's true. There's a lot of
And that's
smoking
like-
in this movie. It's very funny.
Growing up, I wasn't that familiar with Lupin the Third, but I would see him, like I would see someone at school wearing like a Lupin the Third T-shirt, and I would see him and Jigen's characters. So I definitely recognized those characters, even not having seen any of his work or anything. I was like, oh yeah, Lupin the Third, big character. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
very iconic characters.
Iconic squad
designs.
for sure.
Yeah.
Core 4. Can I ask you guys what language did you guys watch this in? Because I just watched the Japanese dub for the first time. I watched some. I know there's a couple different English dubs. One of them even has David
Yeah.
Hayter, Solid Snake as Lupin, but I just watched the Japanese one.
That's David Hayter, really? No, I
Yeah.
watched just the Japanese with subtitles.
Okay, cool.
And I also,
So
just very interestingly, because I don't have HBO Max, I'll point this out to some of our listeners. I use the library app Hoopla, which had access to this. If you have a library card.
Cool.
Interesting libraries. For me, so this is the only Miyazaki movie that's not available on HBO Max right now.
Oh,
Lupin,
So I
probably.
wasn't able to watch it on there. But let's just say the source that I got it from, I actually ended up getting the entire Lupin the Third collection over the years. So
wow.
that's how I had access to these other movies and things. And so they kind of came with this movie came with both English and Japanese dub as well as subs. So I actually watched it in both. I watched it the first time in Japanese, and then I watched it again in English, but with the subtitles for the Japanese translation, because the actual what they're saying in the English dub differs quite a lot from the Japanese dub in a lot of ways.
Quick.
Yeah.
Because context is the king for this podcast, in my opinion. Like in our Nightmare Before Christmas episode where we spend 30 minutes talking about Hot Topic at the start of
Oh,
it.
sure.
I have to express to our listeners that the only way this movie would have been available when we were young is that the first distribution of this was not something like Disney, Warner Brothers, Studio Ghibli, or G Kids, which now are the people who've done these incredible loving remasters, these 4Ks, these new dubs or whatever. the first dub for this came from Troma Films, the people who made Toxic Avenger. Okay, like
James
the
Gunn's
lowest
old
of
job.
low, shittiest shit. James Gunn probably typing up, some lines for these people to say, like, yo, what did you say Lupin had to call himself, Jacob? Fox
Wolf.
or Wolf?
Wolf.
Yo, Wolf man, come on, like horrible stuff like that,
Yeah.
like dubbed over this movie.
Yeah.
And you would go to Suncoast Video at the mall. This was the only place you could get anime. There was no online. eBay was just coming
Crunchyroll.
out, and there was no Crunchyroll, no Funimation, none of that bullshit. eBay was coming out where you could purchase weird dubbed VHS tapes that had like blood and sex in them. It would be like the episodes of Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball where like you would see a butt. Like, and that like never came to America otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you would go to Suncoast and buy these tapes, and then slowly they transition over to DVD. Then the history of it is, of course, fucking Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, and basically Toonami bringing anime to the masses. I just wanted to point that all out, that the first time we would have all seen this, it would have been a shitty dub.
Yeah, I mean, there like you said, Mike. There's multiple English dubs. I don't know which one I watched. It might have been the first dub, but I thought the English dub was pretty good. It's just like the translation of what they're saying is so different sometimes. It's crazy. Like that's why I left the Japanese the English subtitles for the Japanese audio on at the same time as the English dub, so I could really compare the differences in what they're saying. It's pretty interesting to do it that way. But I found that the English dub would over-explain. It kind of held your hand more as an audience to be like, yeah, I am Lupin and I'm doing this because this is my motivation. Where the Japanese, it's much more subtle and like doesn't just over-explain everything. So I found that to be the case. But I didn't think the English dub was necessarily bad. And
You guys remember when Pokemon, when it first aired in America, like the characters would be like, hey, pass me another jelly donut, and they'd eat Japanese onigiri rice balls.
Right.
Like there's nothing
weirdest
like
looking
that
donut I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
not really, but there's some different they call things different things, like the rings and things like that, or like the Clarice, they call her the princess in the English version, where she's just Lady Clarice in the Japanese version. The Archduke versus they call him like the King of Cagliostro, I think, or the Prince of Cagliostro instead of the Archduke, who's her father, right?
Right.
Sure.
But there's also a lot of times when so like a character's looking away from the camera, basically, essentially, and you can't see their mouth, and there's a lot of American dialogue where there's no subtitles to the Japanese. So I know that there's actually more dialogue in the English version where there's, they're not saying anything in the Japanese version.
And by the way, I'm a good guy, and we're gonna go solve the plot now. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Yep.
You used to have
A lot
to be
of
like
that.
that fast, yeah. And you're like, oh.
Again, this is 1979. This is pre-anime boom in the West, of course, which kind of started in the 90s and continued into the 2000s, where it really exploded as something that people liked in the West. And yeah, I do think later Miyazaki films have very good English dubs because they get like big name actors to do them all, because it's all through Studio Ghibli's partnership with Disney and everything. So those are really high quality English dubs, even though obviously the Japanese dub is always going to be preferable to most people, I would think, just because that's the original. But I don't speak Japanese, but I do, read subtitles.
Right. No, and that's something that's in the history of localization. That's always something that happens where there's a little bit of, do you directly translate it, or do we try to massage it to fit? Like maybe there's a cultural joke that just doesn't land or doesn't make sense, So they always, you lose some of that fidelity. So it's interesting that you were able to compare both,
Right.
kind of things. But yeah.
But Mike, just the opposite coin of that, just to your point, that you and I can watch a show like Dan to Dan, where the entire show is based around you having any kind of bottom tier knowledge of the Japanese actor Ken Takakura. You know what I mean? Which back in the past they would have been like, his name is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like they would have just like completely changed it. But it's like, no, we're not going to re-strategize this stuff for Western audiences. They can just accept that this is how it is in all versions. I
Yeah.
love that.
And we've really come a long way from Suncoast. We were still calling it Japanimation at that time.
That
Use
that was
term
the name of
anime.
the aisle, Mike. Thank
Yeah.
you. And if there were some incredibly adult titles next to those Sailor Moon DVDs, let me tell you.
I may have
Yeah.
ended up with a couple on accident. It was a formative
Absolutely.
part of
Ghost
my
in
life.
the Shell, and then what's this?
Wicked City?
Human sex slaves?
Yeah, don't look
Right.
that up.
It was
What
really
is this called?
you can thank Dragon Ball Z for popularizing anime in the West. I think number one
Absolutely.
culprit for that. And I think there's sort of a pre-Dragon Ball Z anime scene and a post Dragon Ball Z anime scene in the West. And
Yeah.
of course, Toonami airing things like Dragon Ball Z and
Cowboy Bebop,
Cowboy Bebop and
Rurouni
all
Kenshin,
those.
Inuyasha, all those classics.
Yeah.
Oh, Outlast Star, baby. All of it.
Ooh,
Play
Trigun?
all of it.
Yeah, but this is 1979.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is based on a 60s anime. This is the second animated film. Again, the first one was in 1978, Lupin the Third, The Mystery of Mamo, which I did watch. There's been a bunch over the years. The next one would be in 85, The Legend of the Gold of Babylon, The Fuma Conspiracy in 87, Farewell to Nostradamus in 95, and even again, the most recent one is Lupin the Third, the First, in 2019, which is has a different art style. It's a CG animated film. So
Right.
Is it considered good?
I think it's considered pretty good. Yeah.
Oh,
I was looking at the list of I just looked online of the Lupin the Third movies ranked and things like that. Just looking at different sources.
We got
to
to
see what
the
people think.
worst list on fucking, one of these horrible
Yeah.
aggregate sites.
No,
But I looked
Lupin's
at
about to
multiple
steal
ones
our-
just to see the sort of consensus online, and I would say
Okay.
this movie, The Castle of Cagliostro, number one on all of those lists. So it's kind of considered by far the best animated Lupin the Third movie ever.
Okay.
It makes sense. Miyazaki, it's got that Miyazaki touch, which the other ones just don't have.
Yeah,
and
it's
Sorry, just the different levels throughout the eras of animation quality, writing, it differs wildly. Like the Legend of the Gold of Babylon in 85, they say has notoriously bad animation and is also kind of racist depictions of black people and things. Japan.
But there was something to that specifically, Jacob, the globe trotting and sort of seeing other cultures and stuff, where I
Yeah.
would also see Tintin, a comic book I didn't read as a little white kid in the suburbs. I would see Lupin and I'd be like, right, other countries have these explorer action characters. And I would think, I like that. I'm glad they have those. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it is interesting. Based on a French character, he's this globe-trotting master thief that interacts with a lot of different characters in different places and things. Like in this one, the country of Cagliostro, which is obviously a fake country, but it's sort of a
Country of a
European
castle.
coded
Yeah.
country. Yeah.
But this is because I guess generally he's kind of doing present day stuff. He's in the city doing heists and stuff. Because this feels like a fairy tale. You feel like you're taken out of time in Miyazaki's Lupin.
Yeah.
At least that's how I
He
felt.
kind of exists in a sort of a very vague time period where they don't really explain what year it is or anything, but there's different mix of technologies and stuff. And of course you have a guy that's dressed like a samurai and also a guy that's a more modern looking guy with a suit coat.
I know a la Indiana Jones, some of his adventures do involve him fighting Nazis. So I do like that about Lupin as well.
Nice. Heck yeah.
I will say in The Mystery of Mamo, he has a scene where he does a Heil Hitler salute for some reason.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Yeah.
No, wait! I'm turning on Lupin.
Again, this
Oh
involves
no!
cloning in South America, which is obviously inspired by the boys from Brazil. And there's a clone of Hitler, and he does a Hitler salute. Lupin does, and keep in mind this is 1978 Japan, mere 30 years after World War II, and let's not forget what side Japan was on in World War II. So that was interesting.
It's not that Donald, he's doing it to blend in. He's not agreeing, is he? I hope not.
No, he just sees a clone of Hitler and just does it. and then just moves on. It's a
That's
very
an
strange
interesting
scene.
move.
Very
Our
tone deaf
scene.
sight gag.
Yeah.
Okay, Lupin.
Again, this
Oh.
Mysteries of Mamo is much more mature, much more sexual situations, violence and stuff is ramped up a little more compared to Cagliostro. So I thought that was very interesting.
So yeah, if I was like, if this was my introduction to Lupin, like I like this version of Lupin. You know, like I like that
Yeah.
he's fun, happy.
Yeah.
I don't.
He's
I don't
usually
think I would
not
take as
so much
well.
like this, which is interesting.
I don't want to think about what his thoughts on Palestine are.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
Cagliostro. But so like this movie, Cagliostro, though, it was a lot of people's introduction to Lupin, and I guess that's what's jarring is to realize
Yes.
this is a very different take on him.
Yeah, and Miyazaki had this whimsical gentleman thief in mind. He's like, I want to make this nice movie, and people are like, that's not our Lupin. But
It's like, take
overall,
your
people
medicine.
do really like this movie. I
This
mean,
quiet man smoking a cigarette who's like, I want to make something nice, and he will fly an airplane, and everybody's screaming at him. That's horrible.
But then they go back to their
Yeah.
dens and they make their list and they still put it number one. They're like, damn
Yeah.
it is good.
And it'll be interesting to see once we get to later Miyazaki films, like his perspective on World War II and post-war Japan, especially with something like The Wind Rises, which is essentially about a biopic of the guy who created the kamikaze planes that they use, the Zeros.
Yes.
He invented
Right.
those planes.
Worth saying, because you did just mention a little bit of Japanese history, just to give the smallest biography on the man. He's from Japan. His parents and his father specifically worked for Miyazaki Aviation. That was his father's brother's company. So his uncle owned a plane company that developed the rudders for, as Jacob is saying, planes in World War II. And when the Allies bombed Japan and some horrible stuff happened, he of course moved to different parts of the city and was raised more in the country, but from a very affluent family. And you just see that aviation is something he has thought about for every second of his life, essentially.
He
And it's
loves
very-
flying. Yeah.
But don't you find it fascinating? And again, we'll talk so much about this man over the next year that we are doing this series of covering these films.
Yes.
That he's a guy who's like, oh, I hate my son. Get your own job. Stop obsessing over me. When he is obsessed with the thing his father created.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. He loves flying. He loves planes. He loves airships, any kind of flying vehicle, which you'll see in the majority of his films, as well as themes of like he loves nature. He loves conservation. He
Because-
believes in nonviolence. He's a pacifist, right?
There is this thing of like stereotypes that you picture of when animation came to the West in the 80s of what anime looks like. A lot of times it's like Japanese people are fascinated by robotics, the future, cutting edge, again, because
Yeah,
of
science
the
fiction.
way Reagan capitalism, yes, like invoked just the smallest bit of anime, the things we were consuming were a lot of that stuff that perpetuated Western culture, actually. The incredible thing, Jacob, as you're pointing out, is the Miyazaki of it all, who again is maybe now considered the greatest anime director, creator, illustrator of all time, is very much about nature, peace. Not a lot of robots, honestly, but the majesty of the sky through human ingenuity to create flying mechanisms, which is so fascinating.
Yes, and obviously we'll talk about it with Princess Mononoke and different films. Just his views on nature and spirituality, and like the spirit of nature and humans coexisting in harmony with nature and all that stuff. So that'll be very exciting to talk about.
Yeah, and that's a big part of Japanese culture generally. Like there's a bit of long held belief that like everything has a spirit, like objects. Like if you have something and you don't use it, like it becomes like there's haunted umbrellas, like yokai and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Toy Story universe in Japan.
It's pretty wild, yeah.
And we'll get into that even next month with his next film, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Sky, which I'm very excited to talk about.
Nice.
Or the Valley of the Wind. But the Castle of Cagliostro, Lupin the Third. Let's get into the plot of this movie and what we thought of it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Up next.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, talking Lupin the Third, the Castle of Cagliostro. Here, like we said on Normies Like Us, and as we said before, this film kicks off with a ton of cash. Two boys making their way out of the world with more money than they can spend in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
That's
More
right.
money than you could fit
Yeah.
in a Fiat.
Yeah, they're driving their little Fiat. It starts, in media res with them just sort of having finished a heist with a bunch of money, of course, driving down the road with it. And then, of course, Lupin realizes pretty much immediately, oh, this is all counterfeit money. It's worthless to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where he gets his idea to do this next heist, which is to find who's making this counterfeit money.
Yep. But
And
I
that
love
leads him-
this intro of Jigen
Yeah.
and Lupin. Like, if you've never heard of them, it's a very fun way when they're jumping over those railings and swerving the car around. And it's like it's a lot
Absolutely.
of good energy between them. And it's like, oh, okay, I like these guys, like, immediately.
Yeah.
So good intro.
The way that,
Um,
and this sucks at the whole episode, I'm going to do this, but the fact that literally Persona 5 starts with them bursting out of a casino, running at top speed, saying, "Did you do the heist successfully?" "We did. Hold on. It's this other thing. Oh, here's this like bigger world." Like, it's truly one for one. And
Yeah.
this film just does it so well. It's so fun to see the cops' cars all messed up as they're like running away in such a cool way.
and
The
you see,
animation.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, just to really highlight the animation of it all,
Yes.
it's clean, clear, precise. The flow of it looks great, but there's not a ton on screen at all times. You'll get these beautiful backdrops, like these watercolor,
Mhm.
however landscapes that are done, and then really small bits on the frame. Because honestly, the budget for this film was only 500,000 yen, which back then even was not
Right.
quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it's really beautiful animation considering the limited budget, and like you said, the backdrops are just beautiful, which is another sort of Miyazaki staple of just these beautiful locations that he comes up with. And
He
even when
directed, wrote, and storyboarded the entire film himself.
wow,
He did have a
Yeah.
co-writer.
Okay. Nice.
again, this
No.
looks so much better than the Mysteries of Mamo. It's kind of crazy, and I just like the art design better, even the character design in this movie. Yeah, and I think one thing that really struck me when watching this movie feels very. I said Mysteries of Mama was very James Bond. To me, this movie is like Mission Impossible. Like his crew reminds me of Ethan Hunt. He's always one step ahead, using disguises a lot. You think you got him trapped, but then he secretly wanted you to get him trapped because he had a way out of it the whole time.
Yeah.
It's very Ethan Hunt, and I love
Does
his
Ethan Hunt
crew.
ever
Feels like
use-
their crew. Yeah.
Does Ethan Hunt ever use a puppet made of bones?
Oh, well, we haven't seen Dead Reckoning 2 yet.
That's
Final
right.
Reckoning.
Right.
He's going to, Mike.
He's
You're
going
right.
to.
The disguises. There's even an underwater sequence where he has to like unlock a thing underwater, and I was like,
It's
they did that in fucking Rogue Nation. I feel
the
like,
way that is animated is incredible. All
Yeah.
the underwater
Yeah.
stuff.
but there's a big underwater sequence in Rogue Nation. I was wondering, did Tom Cruise watch this movie? It was like, hey, you know what we should do? I saw this great Japanese animation movie called Lupin the Third, and I want to do a set piece that's exactly like this set piece.
Well, he
We have
100%.
literal.
I'm just saying, he saw him climbing the side of the castle and was like, I'm going to do that on the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, he's
Like-
climbing things. There's a big action set piece at the end with the clock tower. And Tom Cruise like watches everything. Like notoriously, he's a big
Yes.
cinephile, and he watches he's like Buster Keaton, man. I get a lot of inspiration from Buster Keaton. So I really wonder if he did see this movie. He's like, yeah, that Lupin guy. All right.
If you're going to
There's
steal from this.
definitely live action films that directly reference this movie. More one-to-one. The Great Mouse Detective, directed by our beloved Aladdin guys, steals the clock tower ending to this film almost
Yeah.
shot for shot.
While I was watching this, I was thinking, this is the Great Mouse Detective, because I love the Great Mouse Detective. A lot of, not a lot of people are really super ride or die for it, but I'm like, it's so underrated.
Count
And I'm like,
Ratigan.
oh, Ratigan, the world's most criminal rat.
Ratigan
That's
of
so
Cagliostro.
true. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and so I was
It's crazy
super
how
stoked to see that.
influential this movie is actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so the sequel to this, The Great Mouse Detective, watch it if you haven't seen it. It's pretty good too, folks. I'm just
I love it.
saying.
So they do this heist. They find out that it's counterfeit money. They're like, all right, this is worthless. Let's just throw it all
Throwing the money on the
out
freeway.
back of the car.
So
Yeah.
beautifully animated again. It's
Yeah.
just all flowing. It's not like how they could even see out of the car. You have no
Right.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got that
just
70s
whimsical.
anime feel, that like old anime feel that I love, that just doesn't exist anymore with the new ways that they animate using computers and everything.
Is this film vaporwave, Jacob?
It could be. You could edit some a vaporwave song to this and have like a nice little montage with shots from this for sure.
Some of the stills and stuff are pretty vibey too.
The fucking
Yeah.
Count with his mask on. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yo,
Even the opening credit sequence, which it kind of cuts to after this heist, beautiful open credit sequence with these beautiful
oh,
vistas and shots. Like,
oh
I
yeah,
was like,
that
I love
song's
it.
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
yes.
Very
With the
iconic.
little letter letting us know this is Lupin the Third, baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So yeah, they want to. So Lupin's like, I know where to go. We need to go to Cagliostro. And so that's how we sort of start our adventure. And then we come across the character of Clarice. Clarice.
Yeah.
They're driving up the road. Like I said, their ashtray is full of so many cigarettes. They're being so French. Their car breaks down.
Yeah. Well, they're hanging out.
Lupin,
They camp on the side of the road at night. They're having a great time. Seems like I want to hang out with these guys. You know?
Yeah.
Lupin's sort of the big dog, so he's getting jig on to fix the car. They change the tire. A car shoots past them, and the cars are super specific. They are not just animated to be generic anime cars. They look like individual models. This is like a Volkswagen is like shooting past, right?
Yeah.
We said
They
it
have a
seems
lot of
like they're driving
personality.
like a Fiat or a Mercedes or something awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
And-
think it is a Fiat, their car, and it just has so much personality.
Well, that's what Miyazaki drives in real life, I thought at that time. I heard.
Oh,
And like in the
boy.
other movies, he has like cool Mercedes, and he's like, no, I'm putting him in a Fiat, a little dumb
Right,
Fiat.
that's
And
right.
it's such a
That's
good call.
cute.
Because the car is a
Said,
character too, it feels like.
Well, it
I get-
is. They fix the tire and then they flick this switch and it turns into a supercar to chase
like
after and save
supercharged,
this
yeah.
woman.
Mhm.
Again, reminds me of a Mission Impossible sequence in Dead Reckoning when they had a little car and they were driving around
Yeah,
Italy.
a little yellow car. And they got to
Yeah.
switch who's
I think
driving.
you mean Fast and Furious X, Jacob. I don't know what film you're talking about.
That's right.
Wow, they did totally rip that off though. But yeah, we get this cool chase scene where they're going on like the railing. Like I love this sequence. It's like super well done. But we see
Yeah.
that they're chasing this lady in a wedding dress, and like, oh, that doesn't look good. So they decide to help.
So
Yeah.
Jagon loads his Magnum up and just starts shooting at these guys. Again, he's the trigger man. Now, they shake these guys off, and then maybe the coolest action sequence I've ever seen in my life occurs. How no one has ever stolen this. I don't get it. They drive up to be like, beep, beep, hey, lady, you want to thank us for saving your life or whatever. They see that she is passed out behind the wheel, and the car is careening a little bit on this highway. It's about to go off the side, and they realize they have to save her. And they pull off this incredible, awesome car stunt. It is so cool looking.
Yeah,
Right.
Lupin's got to jump over. Jigen's got to take the wheel, climb in, move her to the side. It's wild. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a huge crash.
They
She
basically,
saved
they
his
end up
life at the
hanging
end.
off a cliff, Lupin and Clarice, where he's saving her from falling. But then, yeah, she kind of she gets away, and he's unconscious, right? So she's like, "Oh, forgive me, I have to leave," but she leaves him her ring,
She tries to like
which is a very special ring.
Yeah, she takes her glove off to kind of dampen it to try to wake him up. The ring gets stuck, right? And then she's like, "Oh shit, I gotta go." So she did try to help him out till her pursuers showed up on a boat, and so that's how we end up with the ring.
And these are
first
people
clue.
who basically the rest of the movie I will assume are robots until we see that they are not robots.
So they're
Uh-huh.
trained assassins, but they have the special gauntlets that they use.
They have
I love it.
super armor. It gets sliced off them
Yeah.
at one point. And you see they're just little mustachioed dudes underneath.
Yeah, and they have a very funny look. They come in.
Yes. At
when
one point they crawl on all fours.
yeah,
Yeah,
They
they're
attack,
weird little guys.
they attack Jigen and Lupin in their hotel room or whatever, and they have a big fight with them. But eventually they end up at the Castle of Cagliostro, which is this beautiful castle that it's sort of
such
in
a good
ruins.
design.
Yeah,
Oh, well, they got to find the ruins first, I guess.
right. This is
Yeah.
a little
Before
confusing because
this-
they show up to the ruins, this burned down house, which used to belong to the Archduke of Cagliostro, I guess, who died in this fire, and his daughter is Lady Clarice, and that's who the Count of Cagliostro is wanting to marry to unite the bloodlines, so to speak.
Mhm.
Yes. but secretly to find the hidden treasure of the Castle of Cagliostro. Lupin's kind of aware of all this. We will find out later that he's actually tried to solve all of this mystery once before.
Yes.
But in his process to do all this, we do have to point out he warns the inspector what he's up to and where he is, to basically be like, I don't know if this guy's around, he'll kind of like take some heat off me because he's like loud and obnoxious and like does dumb shit, and that's always kind of in my favor.
Inspector Zenigata, his nemesis, he basically invites him to the castle to get him mixed up in this situation for a reason, because he's like, I can use this as part of my plan. Like I said, Lupin is always like 2 steps ahead of like everyone else, basically.
But really, again, because this is the Miyazaki version, it's kind of like what it'll be revealed to be like, well, I called him because he's a nice guy, and I trust, like, like nice people to help out. And you're like, okay, I guess so.
That's why their relationship is kind of funny, because Lupin like does not treat Zenigata like a threat at all at any point, and Zenigata just has this like, all he wants to do is catch Lupin, and he never can.
He's just drunk later. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, we learned the thing got burned down. I love seeing Lupin walk around the ruins. There's like, all the water everywhere, and he's just real contemplative. He's keeping secrets from Jigen, but these are really beautiful shots of these kind of vistas and stuff.
Absolutely.
Contemplative.
They're very lonely and sparse again. There's never that many characters on screen at the same time. Because again, you'd have to imagine for the budget and time and number of people working on this.
We kind of learned that he, like you said, he tried to break into the castle before years ago, and he recognized Clarice when she was younger, and she's like, oh, she's like grown up a lot or whatever.
Yeah. He was there 10 years prior. He failed in his mission as he was trying to escape to freedom. He hid in a bush or something, and she kind of came across him and gave him a glass of water or something.
Right.
So instead, I've realized what I won't steal is her treasure. I will steal her heart. And you're like, ooh, wait, are you grooming this girl?
Yeah,
what? What was going on? Explain
they
it all
clear
again.
At the end, when he's like, she's basically like, I love you, Lupin. And he's like, I will always love you as a younger sister. Goodbye. I'm leaving now.
I'm glad that choice was made. Thank you, Miyazaki.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise, I was
He's just saying that because the cops are there.
Literally right there, yeah. Chris Hansen.
Yeah.
But so they scout the castle out. He's kind of telling Jigen there's this thing next to the aqueduct. We maybe sneak in there. They're kind of planning. And then they go to the inn for like the night, right?
Yeah.
And continue.
Have a nice meal. Have some spaghetti.
We learn the wedding's coming up from the locals. Why are there so many tourists here? Oh, the wedding's in a week. They're going to marry Clarice to the Archduke. And it's like, okay.
Right.
The plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Then remind me what happens after this. So they go to the castle.
Well, no, that's when they get jumped in the hotel room.
That's right.
Because there's a guy listening in on their conversation. Lupin knows that he listens in, and he leaves the room, and he's like, okay, we've already been found out. That guy was listening to us. So he's like already building a flash bomb when they get to the room. Like he's in the process of building the flash bomb because he knows they're coming. And inevitably they do, and they do their little axe fight. But these guys are intimidating with their little claws. Like they are kind of in over their head. There's like 20 of them. It's pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're trained assassins, as Lupin says. These guys they're so skilled.
Is this also where he says we need backup and he sends for Gaumon?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
and,
we need to come in here.
Yes, he summons, and then he tips off Zenigata and says, yo, come here if you want to catch me. And then he leaves his calling card on the Count's sort of goon's back, that he's like, oh yes, I'm going to steal Clarice's heart like a gentleman would. Yeah.
And the Count has, when Clarice is recovered, because they do catch her and they bring her back to the castle, and she's trapped up in the tower. He goes to her hand and is like, "Where's the ring? What the hell? I need the ring." So they start piecing it together.
So Mike, he holds her in this sky room. The room is painted sort of like
isolated room at the top of a tower. That you can only get to one way from this retracting.
Literally the princess in the tower of a castle who needs to be rescued. It is a fairy tale, like Mike was saying. The way that the door parts, he walks through, and then it comes together and removes the sort of like the seal or outline, the seam of the door. It's fucking. I get like Akira, like these movies that it's making me think of where I'm just like a kid sitting on my couch and somebody's going like, "Oh, you haven't seen this, man? This is like the weirdest thing you could ever see." And I'm like, "Whoa." Like it's
Yeah.
all coming back to me.
Yeah, and like the trapdoors do the same thing where they'll like the seams will go away once they're shut back and stuff. It's like so many hidden passages and stuff in this castle. I love this castle. It looks great.
Yeah.
Outside and inside. But so he's putting
The
two and two together. We saw two strangers with her. Maybe they have the ring, and so there's this push pull of that.
just so quick, Mike, to exactly what you just said about the exteriors and what the
Yes.
castle looks like.
Mm-hmm.
If a Marvel movie just had like one location that they kept showing to that was like so built up and so just like well made or whatever, and they just like kept showing you it, I would be like hyped up on what that place was. The scale of this castle and
Mm-hmm.
how it's animated and how everybody looks next to it, you are like, oh yeah, this film has to be called The Castle of Cagliostro. And out of his castle filmography, Howl's Moving
Another running
Castle
theme.
and
Castle
the
Castle in the Sky.
Castle in the Sky. This is maybe the best castle out of all those because it is
Mm.
100% a castle.
Right.
Like, it's so
I like
cool.
Howl's Moving Castle because it's
Mm.
doesn't look like a castle. It looks like a giant, crazy looking thing
It's
that,
just
that
like
walks
it's
around
fucking
on legs.
Baba Yaga's house. We talked it. It's the chicken
Right.
legs, Mike. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't love that one. And Castle in the Sky is one of the only ones I've never seen. So I
Right.
don't I know
Laputa,
nothing of
Castle
that
in the
castle.
Sky. That'll
No,
be
I
a good one
love-
to talk about as well in 2 months.
Yeah.
Pizza.
No, but the look of this castle, it reminds me of, I watched Vampire Hunter D recently, which has a very famous castle design. This is the nice version of that. It's just so striking. You have the North Tower, all these, roofs and parapets. It's like if the Weasleys were trillionaires. Like it's all
Oh
stacked
my
on top
God.
of itself. It's so interesting.
It's very Scooby-Doo castle too, because as we find out, there's booby traps, there's trap doors everywhere in this dang
Yes.
place, and you don't want to go down those trap doors because then you'll end up in the dungeon, I guess, where they
The
have
oubliette.
Yeah.
It's even more
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah.
where they've been dropping people for hundreds of years. Anyone who comes to inspect or look for counterfeit money, they just drop them down there and then they die.
We drop them down there.
Drop them down.
So
That's what
yeah,
it sounded
'cause
like.
Lupin explains, so these guys have been making counterfeit money for generations. They like caused
Yes.
the Great Depression. He's like, these guys have been doing this
Right.
forever.
That's
Yeah.
how they basically they establish themselves as a family, the Cagliostros, or as a country. I guess they lead this country that's also called Cagliostro.
It is no. To be more specific,
Mhm.
it is the counterfeit capital of the world. And
Yes.
this castle, the castle that everyone sort of like lives in and around,
Mhm.
is
It's a
a
black hole.
sovereign nation itself. It has
Oh, right.
total independence of the world, which
Hell
is
yeah.
like what?
And
I'm
as they
sorry.
say,
What is this? This is what in the Doctor Doom are you saying? Like that's the
Right.
craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
it's like Dracula's castle.
Yes.
And as they say, like, yeah, basically it's a black hole because anyone who goes to investigate where this counterfeit money is coming from, they never return. And, it's very suspicious. And they have
Yeah.
counterfeit money in all different denominations of all the different currencies in the world. They have, Japanese yen, they have dollars, they have euros, I guess, and everything else.
The
Yeah.
Count, before we even got to see him inspect Clarice, we get a scene of him with his trusty weirdo butler inspecting a sheet of newly made bills, right? There is
Yes.
no even hiding that this guy is our big
Yeah.
bad.
And I just want to say this shot of them looking with the magnifying glass, like to animate the magnifying glass aspect of it, it's like you're doing some
Oh,
nice little
sure.
touches here, subtle stuff, but I see you, Miyazaki.
Mhm.
But the quality's not good enough. You got to make it better. This is not up to snuff, he says. But
That's right.
So this is where they
Um,
break in through the water?
yeah, because the Count
Yeah.
basically says, "Oh fuck it, let him come here. If he has the ring, just let him infiltrate. We don't give a shit."
Right.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh,
so
this
he's
Lupin
scheming.
I've heard about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lupin
there's
breaks in. Also,
lasers.
Zenigata shows up, right? And so he's kind
Mhm.
of using Zenigata because he disguises himself as Zenigata at one point to get by the guards because Zenigata at first is working with the castle guards to be like, yeah, we'll catch this Lupin guy. Let me know all your security details and everything.
Yeah, and then I think
Meanwhile, the
Count
count's like,
sends
no,
him
go
away.
away. Like, we don't need your
Yeah.
help. Like,
We
get the fuck
don't
out
need
of here.
you.
And then he's
Yeah.
contacting Interpol. Zenigata's like, yo, can I get resources? And they're like, we can't do anything. That's a sovereign nation. They'll be really pissed if
Right.
we investigate this stuff. Like, he has to deal with the red tape
And he's
on
also
that side,
like,
too.
yeah, he's also like, oh, the security here is really good for some random castle. Like, there must be something going on here to have such good security for no reason. You know, like the defenses, like he flicks a cigarette in the grass and like a gun shoots it immediately. So there's like motion sensors that will shoot you if you step off the given path.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's very hard to break into castle, but not a problem for Lupin the Third, of course.
Yeah, not a problem at all. So we do the water entry. Him and G again do the water entry. And this sequence is super crazy, too, because they have to go in the water, because if you go above the water, the lasers are going to shoot you. So you have to stay submerged. So that's kind of the...
Gotta hold your breath for a long time.
But they get separated.
Yeah, they're doing good, except Lupin gets pulled away by the current and does the cartoon
Trying to swim
it up, and he gets a little closer, and Jagad puts his hand out like he's gonna get him, and then he just gets so tired that he has to swim a different way and starts to go, and the look on both their faces is so good.
Yeah, I love that sequence. And that's some of the great animation. When you see him coming into that waterfall, doing the cartoon swim, I'm like, this is just so great.
And the water is a different color. It's green. There's shadow underneath. You see like mock depth being created. Like again, the hand
Distortion.
animation style is 100 out of 100. I mean, it's top grade.
Yeah. And the scenario itself is also
good.
very inventive and fun, so really knocking it out of the park. So he's going through gears
Jagad
and
accidentally
stuff.
goes up for a second. A laser shoots past him. He goes back down. Again, you're getting those stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then we're getting the setting of gears. Like, he's got to go through all these sluices. Lupin's now trying to figure out a way out of here because he's got a plan B it. So he's not always one step ahead. He generally is, but I like that sometimes
he
he's
can
got to
improvise on the
Yeah,
fly.
yeah.
Yeah. Just like Ethan Hunt, when something goes wrong on a heist with Ethan Hunt, he's got to improvise something else.
Right. Very Mission Impossible.
I love Ethan Hunt. He's my friend.
He's my
Get
guy.
ready. He's coming back soon.
I can't
That's
wait.
right. So they get separated basically, and it's pretty much a lot more Lupin for a lot of this movie. Jigen and Goemon kind of are sidelined for a little bit of it.
Yeah, we're like, he'll give us the signal when he's ready for us.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
just gonna stay back here and watch.
I gotta say, as a guy who's just this is my second time seeing this film. I was very much like, oh, right, the samurai guy. This guy gets a lot to do. And then by the end of the movie, I was like, wait, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't do much samuraiing in this one, but he always appears in Lupin movies, so they had to kind of include him. And like in Mysteries of Mamo, he actually does more samurai stuff.
Sure.
And at one point, he destroys a helicopter with his sword. Like he just jumps up and like slashes and like destroys a helicopter. So
There's a good chance I'm going to watch this movie, dog. You're selling it pretty hard, honestly. It's sounding really good.
I don't know if it's that good.
You're making it sound. You said there's nudity.
Yeah.
You said there's a Hitler salute.
That's true. That's all true.
And worse animation.
Well,
wait.
Let's keep going with meeting the rest of our characters. So we get the way that Lupin gets separated, he ends up with Clarice, and we get a little bit more of the development of what that relationship's going to be. And we meet her lady-in-waiting, her handmaiden, whoever it is, who's later revealed to be Fujiko, the character that Jacob has sort of set up as the Catwoman foil to Lupin.
She's essentially, she's like another thief that sometimes works with Lupin, sometimes works against him. They have sort of a love interest at times, but sometimes she uses his attraction to her against him to like trick him and stuff like that. So she uses her feminine wiles and whatnot.
Well, to pit him against the Penguin, I bet.
Yes. He wants to be the mayor.
But yeah, we see her. She's in disguise working for the Count to get more inside information, and I think she's also trying to like find the counterfeit money, I guess, or
the treasure.
It is revealed at the end is what she wants is the plates to develop the counterfeit bills themselves.
That's right.
Which is pretty fascinating. And I got to say, the look of the character and this character. It's interesting that you say she's more Bond girl coded, Jacob, because in this, like we said, she's really more of the anti-hero or against him, but she's a proper British woman, hair up, blonde lady. Takes that down,
Got like a
throws
camo
off the
jacket.
red dress to have a
Paramilitary.
camo onesie on. She pulls out a
Yeah.
German Luger, puts it
She's
in her
a badass.
side, and later she's
Yeah.
firing an SMG from her hip like Chuck Norris. I mean, it's so badass and great. I love it.
I
Yeah.
love her in this, yeah. And the reveal of the camo suit, yeah, this Fujiko's cool. 10 out of 10.
Also, I
Yeah.
do want to point out that her name is Fujika, like Mount Fuji, because her breasts are supposed to be mountainous.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Naming
Important
I
to
would
know.
say, yeah, watch The
naming
Mysteries of
conventions
Mamo.
are important.
Is she who we see naked, I guess?
Yeah,
You're right.
Oh,
I
great,
assumed as
I
much.
guess.
yeah.
Does
There's
she
one
look
scene where
like this?
she.
Are the characters always drawn the same, Jacob? Like
No,
they
they're
look-
actually very different. I mean, they're still
Okay.
recognizable as those characters in Mystery of Mama, but they're even Lupin, like the whole way his body and his face is drawn is different. He
This
sort of
is
has a
Blue
more
Jacket.
angle.
He has like a red jacket normally.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the red
typically the
jacket
jackets
in-
change color, right?
Yeah,
Interesting.
in
Yeah.
Mystery of Mama. He has a green jacket in this one, doesn't he? Mostly.
Yeah, like a green blue, yeah.
This is the Miyazaki green look. Like he is nature, quote unquote. I don't know.
Right. But yeah, there's a
Hmm.
scene in Mystery of Mama where Fujiko basically seduces Lupin and then like basically drugs him so he falls asleep. And she's kind of double crossing him and stuff. So it's
Mhm.
pretty good.
It's wild that in the Nausicaa episode, I'm gonna keep saying, yeah, it's just like in that other Lupin movie I just watched.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see if I watch. I mean, there's so many Lupin movies. I want to see. I might watch some other ones from different eras just to compare. And again, there's a lot of hit or miss. Some of them are considered good by the fans. Some are considered really bad by the fans. So
I
I'll
heard
have to
the
see what
one
I
that you
think.
called the first, that's the 3D one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was 2019.
Is it straight up just a remake of this movie?
That I don't know. I don't think so.
I think I saw that it's like super heavily inspired, and I believe it
Hmm.
is about tracking down a ring to solve a mystery.
Interesting. Lupin the
could
First.
be.
I am not sure. But
There's definitely a bunch. I mean, there's even later. Some of the later movies are sort of follow Fujiko as a main character, or some of the other characters. So you
I
learn
kind
a
of
lot
love
more
this
about
world. I might watch these
Yeah.
other movies with you, dude. That
Right.
sounds great.
Yeah, I want to see it in the different eras: 80s Lupin, 90s Lupin, 2000s.
Mike does all the Godzillas, and you watch all the Lupins.
all the Lupins.
Yeah,
No, that's what I was saying earlier. We got to be careful. Lupin's going to steal our monthly series. He's just going to
Right.
hijack it right now.
we're not doing
Say,
Miyazaki.
Sorry,
anymore. We're actually doing Lupin.
So we've actually pivoted.
You know what? We
Listeners, all you Totoro fans, we apologize. We are watching, what do you keep calling it? Mystery Mambo?
The
What's
mystery
it called?
of Mamo, because Mamo is like
Mamo.
this reclusive billionaire guy who's like the villain, who's like a very weird, but he calls himself Mamo for some reason.
All right.
My
My money.
Colin, you'll like this one: Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan the movie, 2013.
Oh God, I want to see it.
You gotta check that one out.
That's way after I would have
Yeah.
been already mixing those
Yeah,
two up. 'Cause
probably.
I was mixing them up in the 90s.
Sure.
Yeah. So
That's interesting.
And even
Huh.
Monkey
Yeah,
Punch
weird
came back to
Genesis.
direct 96 Lupin movie, Lupin the Third: Dead or Alive. So
Whoa. Like,
Lupin
I
the Third
definitely
Dead Reckoning?
remember thinking he was a detective, and my brother being like, no, he's a thief. And young
Yeah.
me being like, no, he's not the bad guy. Like, being like totally rocked by that.
he's an anti-hero. Well, really, if you think about it, like his skill set is that of a detective or a spy. It's just,
Yeah.
what do you, a thief or a detective, what do you use your powers for? Good or evil or anti-good,
Mhm.
anti-hero.
Anti-good.
yeah, it's fair. Anti-good.
Good or anti-good?
Anti-life equation.
Yes. Nice. But yeah, we got Fujiko down here. She's looking for the plates, and she like tells Lupin, like, I know you're here for, the princess. I forgot what her name was. But he's like, I know you're here for her. I don't give a shit.
How can you forget
Yeah.
it? Every time Jacob says it, I think about our president.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Who
My good friend,
would be friends
Hannibal
with the
Lecter.
Baron and be like, we're adding Cagliostro. It's the 52nd state.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
gonna make the best counterfeit money you've ever
We bought-
seen.
we bought
I'm not
one
supposed to say it's
castle, folks.
counterfeit.
One
Getting the
castle.
money from the one castle.
A big beautiful castle. Yep. But But Fujiko does tell him, like, she's in the North Tower. That's where he's got her locked up. I know you're here for her, so you go do that. You stay out of my way. I'll stay out of your way. Deal? Cool.
Yes.
And so that's how he
Yeah.
starts. And this is the sequence that really blew my mind is when he's climbing this castle. He's trying to scale up to the roof to get to her tower. Like, I don't really have vertigo, but I was stressed out watching this cartoon man scaling this castle and this roof sequence. It is very well done.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's trying to get the rocket to shoot across there, and like when he's sliding down the roof, I'm like terrified. Like this is really well done sequence of tension, I guess. But he does a big jump and then scales the tower and goes in to meet the princess.
Yeah, he's a scene with the princess where he's like, you know, I'm gonna get you out of here and everything.
Gives her the ring back.
Gives her the ring. There's the mystery of like the two rings. If you put them together, they reveal the secret treasure of Cagliostro.
Yes,
so
the
he's trying
count
to
has
figure all
the
that
other one.
out. Yeah.
But
what happens next?
well, you know, he
Saw this
makes
movie
this
twice,
big promise. He says, "Oh, if only she believes in the count, but if only she believed in the powers of the thief, you know, that I could get her out." He does this whole little bit.
Yeah.
But the trap is sprung, and a bunch of our little weird, creepy ninja guys show up with the count, and we're trapped, Lupin. We got you. Thanks for
right.
bringing
This is
me
when
the
you
ring.
have the most
Like
characters on
I
screen.
wanted to get caught
Yes.
the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
This is them on all fours. It's so crazy.
Yeah, they fill the room. It's wild. But yeah, the count says, "Thanks for bringing us the ring, you dumb idiot." And then he drops him in the hole down to the oubliette. But one little
we didn't
thing
mention.
oh yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh no, just when the little ninja guys let go of Clarice, they like bow as they back away, like, "I'm sorry, my lady." Like they're still showing like reverence to her.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Small detail, but
We didn't
important.
mention the earlier scene with the trapdoor where he basically Zenigata falls into the trapdoor and Lupin uses that to figure out, oh, if the statue looks at you, then the trapdoor opens. So then he turns the statue, and then when the count's accomplice comes back, he turns it back and like tricks him into following in
That's
that
right.
trapdoor and everything. There's that whole
Hey,
sequence.
When do we meet Clarice's dog? Because when it appeared at the end of the movie, I was like, wait, she has
Oh
a
yeah,
dog?
Carl.
Oh, that's when
Yeah, this is like the
escape on the
groundskeeper's
plane.
dog that
Yeah. Oji-san, her uncle.
Yeah, so that's
The
a little bit
groundskeeper.
later.
Right.
Yeah. So now we're in the catacombs.
Yeah, so he's in the catacombs, and so is Zenigata. So they decide, oh, reluctantly, we'll have to team up to get out of here, even though I still hate you, Lupin, and I'm going to capture you at the end of this. And
Yep.
Lupin's like, yeah, sure,
Of
buddy.
course you will.
They share a sig,
Yeah.
you know, symbolically affirming their allyship for the time being.
Yeah, they're
But-
French.
Yep, but there's no way to get out of here until they send more little weird guys after him underwater. They send these scuba diving
Right.
frogmen after him.
Yeah.
So
then
that
Lupin
lets them
chases
know.
him and finds the way out. Yeah.
Yep. Dresses up as him, but they create their skeleton puppets. Let's not forget, they knew they were coming.
Yes.
They made little skeleton puppets.
Yeah, you think they're just asleep. But of course, Lupin's always one step ahead.
Yep, but we do see he's like, yo, he sees one particular skeleton, and it's like 1913. A Japanese soldier was like, "I was dropped down here. This place sucks." Like he sees this
Yeah.
kind of etched into the wall.
It is funny that like for hundreds of years they were dropping people down here, and no one ever escaped until Lupin, who did it pretty much immediately.
Pretty
Yep.
easily.
Well, you shouldn't have shown that there was an exit through the water. Just leave him down there for 6
Right.
days, and he'll be dead. Hubris. But so yeah, they find the frogmen. They chase them out of there. They got their little clothes on their back, and then we're trying to do the whole thing. That's when they steal the helicopter.
Yeah, the auto gyro.
Yeah, they're
Yep.
stealing the auto gyro, and they're going to try to fly up to where the princess is, get her out of the window, and make an escape. So this is kind of another big action sequence. It's very well done. But yeah,
Yes.
Fujiko is
And-
also getting found out because she's with Clarice. She's trying to blow the window open with a grenade. You
She's
cannot.
swapped at this point,
Mm,
yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
And Lupin keeps he has like fake rings because he keeps tricking the count into thinking that he
That's
got
right,
the real
there's a
ring, and he's
fake
like, oh,
ring.
it's a fake. Yeah. So he made some fake rings to trick the count with.
Yep, because he mocks them through the ring. He says, "If you don't free her, I'm going to blow up your real ring." And yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
a good moment because he was 10 steps ahead.
And then let's see what happens. So then he basically
Well-
as they're trying to rescue Clarice, the there's like a fire, right? And then
Well,
the
Lupin
auto
gets
gyro,
shot, and it hits the
Yeah.
auto gyro.
He's
Right.
shot through the chest and it looks awesome.
he gets all burned
It
up, right?
grazes and
Mhm.
blows his tie
Goemon
up,
cuts
and
his
he gets
burning
all-
clothes off of him and says, "Another useless
Yeah.
thing for my blade to cut. Like,
That's
not
a
worth
really
my
good
time."
moment.
Yeah, Goemon the whole
Yeah.
time he's just kind of hanging out there. He's like, "Oh, I guess I'll do some samurai stuff now."
Yeah.
It's not really worthy of this blade, though. But yeah, then he gets all wrapped up in bandages. He's recovering. Lupin
And this is where we have the reveal of he knew the dog's name.
Yes,
Yeah. So
because he was there before.
so yeah,
You've
we
been here
reveal all
before.
the secrets. I've been here before 10 years ago. And
Now we know it's personal for him. This is kind of the only heist that never worked out for him. And again, Clarice, they had this little moment. He wants to help this girl.
Mhm.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Zenigata, Interpol is like, "Yeah, you gotta like, we're pulling you off the case. We can't do anything with the counterfeit. Like, don't worry about that. Just come back." Like, and he's like, "No, I think this counterfeiting thing is a big deal. I think we should expose that to the world."
Mhm. Yeah, so he's like
and-
feeling like his hands are tied. But the wedding is like in a day. It's going to be televised. It's
Yes.
a big deal. So
Big
Lupin's
event.
still
We've got
recovering, but he
an
wants to make
archbishop coming into town to officiate the wedding.
it. Mhm.
And this becomes important because, of course, Lupin disguises himself as the archbishop to get into the wedding.
Yes.
Beforehand, I do want to point out huge anime trope. I wonder if this is where it came from, but somebody like Akira Toriyama with Dragon Ball, or even my beloved Eiichiro Oda with One Piece will do this in the modern context of your hero gets recovered from a grave injury by having a huge meal. So we see this
Yes.
just
Oh, I'm
devouring
so hungry.
a mountain of food. That is
Yeah.
the mark of a strong protagonist and
course.
vitality in Japanese manga specifically.
That's
You
true.
can cure
yeah.
like burns all over your body by just eating some food. Yeah.
Yeah.
One Piece has characters regrow teeth. I mean, it is insane,
Sure.
And obviously,
Fair.
Goku will like come back from the dead in Dragon Ball to be like, "Ooh, is that a big meal?"
Yep. And this bandage up scene, he's like kind of looking like a mummy. They do that in Cowboy Bebop in an episode 2 after Spike gets all injured.
Well-
it's like a 1-to-1.
Is this where he gets the idea to dress the robot up as a mummy? I guess.
Maybe.
Could be.
But
It's such a crazy ending.
yeah, right. But yeah, the wedding's on. Here's something I forgot about when I was a kid. All the officiators, we got the freaking Cagliostro Klux Klan going on. What we got these hood
Dog,
ass dudes. I
this-
was like, wait a minute.
Star Wars moment / fascism that you're saying, Mike? Like it
Yeah.
feels like the Red Guards, whatever those guys used to be
Oh yeah, the
called.
Praetorian Guards or whatever.
The Praetorian Guards, but with clan hoods, like you're saying. And there's
Yeah.
a moment, because Lupin does, of course, crash this. He is dressed up like a mummy, like I'm saying. Shocking reveal. He's a robot here. But before you get that, they all move into act and to protect the wedding ceremony, raise their like ceremonial Zweihanders, like
Yeah,
these huge
they're big.
swords, and lift his body into the air. Again, in another image that I don't know how it has never been recreated. It looks
Yeah.
so incredible. The angle shooting down at these hulking fascists lifting up our hero's dead body who's skewered by like 100 swords.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty wild.
the Ku Klux Klan looking guys with the pointy hoods and everything.
They're all in
That is
black,
actually-
but the silhouette is very.
They were in red.
I was just say green.
Oh, really? What the heck?
I thought
What
they were
versions
red.
we see?
Oh, is it red? Oh, do we all see a different color?
Is that like a color timing thing?
Yeah.
I should mention though that the pointed hoods and stuff did not
Yeah.
originate with the Ku Klux Klan. Like that's a Catholic thing for certain ceremonies. So that predates the Ku Klux Klan. So I think that's what they're going for. And obviously, I don't think they know too much about the KKK in Japan. in the
No, I just
70s.
wanted
No,
to make
and-
the joke, but
Yeah,
their silhouette is very
certainly
familiar.
the iconography of it. Yeah.
It 100% cuts that silhouette, and that's what they're going for. But just because we bounced over it, the ancient bohemian ritual that we're observing is not only these people dressed like this, it is also the Archduke, or whatever his dumbass title is, the Count,
the count.
wearing this like insane Darth Vader helmet. He has this red
Yes.
cape. Clarice walks out. He puts his arm out. His whole body is like this red cape that's about to envelop her. And all I could think of that moment was, God, if I was a woman, my number one fear would be a psycho man pulls me into his cave to like never be
He's
seen
forcing you
again,
to marry him.
basically. It's
Uh,
so horrifying.
Yeah,
yeah.
he's got like a goat mask because the goat emblem of the family of Cagliostro, which is on the rings too. Like that's
Well,
very
Mike called
important.
it Capricorn, which I think is very
Yeah.
cool. It does feel very zodiac based or like mythological again, given the whole weird fable, Aesop's fable of this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which Capricorn is a goat fish, so
Yeah.
right.
both things apply. But
It's so
I will tell you,
crazy.
though,
It's so crazy.
I would
Yes.
not have thought that we would have back-to-back weeks of people using military-grade armaments and guns to shoot people who are clans members.
Yes.
Who knew that we were going to get
Yeah.
two of those with sinners and
Yes.
all this?
And I know that we said lasers earlier because the kind of the sentry traps are kind
Yeah.
of like a weird little laser. But I really like that the most dangerous threat in this movie is that one person can just have a machine gun. That like a machine gun is the height of like, I mean,
Yeah.
that fires like 100 bullets, and 100 bullets are unstoppable in whatever fantasy year this takes place in.
Well, yeah, it's unclear what year this is. You could tell me it's the 60s. You could tell me it's modern day 1979 when this movie was made.
2054
Yeah.
on the
Who knows?
moon, Jacob.
But yeah, Fujiko is disguised as a camera person who's filming the wedding, and then of course she, takes her disguise off. She's got her sick, commando clothes on.
Got grenades and
Um,
stuff. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that her outfit in the other movie?
No, she looks completely different. Actually, she's not. First of all,
See, I love
she's
the commando
brunette
outfit.
and not blonde. In
I love. What?
she's brunette.
No,
and she's more,
the
again, more
blonde with the
femme
camo
fatale.
is what it's all about. It's
I
why I
agree.
like it.
No,
Yeah.
she's brunette and she has sort of this like cat suit. She's very like femme fatale and
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's an interesting portrayal, a little different than this movie. I feel like she's definitely has more agency in this movie. In Mystery of Mamo, she's kind of used by the villain to trick Lupin at various times. So it's gonna be interesting if I watch some other Lupin movies, just the different
And-
portrayals of these characters.
And again, you saying that one of them stars her, I think that's incredible, or is like her
Yeah.
backstory or something. That's great. But I'm sorry, did you say one of them is live action?
There has been live action. I think there's been a couple live action adaptations as well of Lupin.
Wow.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
look.
There's a live action one. There's probably a couple, but I saw one on an airplane.
God,
yeah.
Mike,
The first one was actually
tell
made in
me she appears
1974.
in the fucking camo.
I don't think we get the camo, Colin. I'm
Ah.
sorry.
There was a live action movie in 1974, and then there was another one in 2014, which is obviously more modern.
probably
So
the
that
one I
must be
saw.
the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's got to be the one you watched. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
we get
weird that next week we're covering that movie.
I wanted to watch one
Right.
just to get the baseline of what Lupin is like, away from Miyazaki. But I am interested just to see the different eras and see different portrayals of him. And they use the same voice actors up to a certain point.
nice.
Who voiced him in the anime and then voiced him in the first couple of movies. Eventually, they used different actors, I think.
I would kill to know what Solid Snake sounds like. I really
Yeah.
cannot picture his.
Yeah.
He says like 2 words every sentence in Metal Gear. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think he was a lot younger, probably because this is '79,
Mhm.
so he's probably a young David
Yeah.
Hayter doing Lupin, so he probably sounds different.
And like doing my name's Wolf. I'm here to steal your stuff. Like he's putting
Yeah,
out a
that's
voice.
like-
Yeah.
That's like they like turn him into Sonic the Hedgehog, Mike. That's like
Yeah.
fascinating. What's up, dudes? It's me, Wolf. Whoa,
Well,
we're here to
it
steal
makes sense
stuff?
because Lupin, obviously Lupine of
Yes.
the wolf. You have
Ah,
Lupin
yes.
in Harry Potter, who's
Yeah.
secretly a werewolf because, that name signifies the wolf.
That's right.
But see, to me,
Hungry
much
like
like
the
a point I pointed out on Letterboxd recently, Jacob, about the name Gulliver, which of course in Gulliver's Travels, the character Gulliver is his last name. His full name is Lemuel Gulliver. So like Samuel with an L.
Mm-hmm.
Lemuel.
Arsene Lupin. To me, Lupin's not the interesting part of the name. I like
Right.
the Arsene.
Arsene.
French name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Arsene.
Again, that
Brooks.
rights
Does
issue-
that work?
Yeah, actually,
Uh,
it seems pretty good.
apparently, according to that rights issue too, like they can't actually call him Arsene Lupin the Third. They just call him Lupin the Third. They never use the first name because of again rights issue. Like Japan at that time did not require them to get the copyright to use Lupin the Third, but for Western markets, it was an issue.
And I read Monkey Punch did not even want that to be a thing. He didn't want it to be the title. He didn't want to be the guy's name. He wanted it to be a future plot point that it's pointed out he's related to him. But he was like, that's just for me. That's like a funny thing, like James Bond, making someone his son. You couldn't actually do that. And the publisher was like, no, you should do that. It's like a really good idea.
It's essentially like someone I've created this original character, Sherlock Holmes Jr.
His name is Stephen Hunt, and he leads the Impossible Doing Stuff task force.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, I don't know about that.
Right.
But obviously he became a cultural phenomenon that surpassed Arsene Lupin, the original.
Do we all go to those movies
Japan.
still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Castle of Cagliostro.
Oh, I forgot to mention that when they were making their getaway, they light all the money on fire to cause a distraction. This is before the helicopter crash. That's part of their thing.
Yes.
So
which is
again very upset about
giving
that.
up certain stuff.
All the counterfeit money.
And he's with Zenigaya, so he's like, look at all this fucking evidence. Do you see the counterfeit?
So Zenigata, during the wedding, Zenigata's like, yes, I'll basically under the pretext of trying to catch Lupin, I'll go in the castle and then with Fujiko film the printing presses that they were making the currencies on and be like, look at this. What are these printing presses for? I wonder.
I love this subplot because Lupin has like a rocket vest. He has all these rockets inside of his cloak and he flies away with the princess. So he's clearly somewhere else, but because of that, the inspector's like, oh, Lupin's went underneath here. We better go follow me, cameraman. It's very funny. I love this whole bit.
And he has all that stuff. Earlier, he gets called, you're practically a knight in shining armor, and he says, well, except the armor's underneath or something like that. It's like, because he's wearing like body armor and stuff. Like he's just a cool spy. He's got gimmicks and gadgets. He is a robot in this scene. I do want to harp on that one more time and say,
so he made a robot
whole
of
bit
himself.
with the robot.
Yeah,
he goes,
it's an automaton. Yes.
Yeah, and then his robotic head explodes, which is part of the bit as well.
And Mike, how do they get Ratigan? Remember, the robotic Queen of England mouse goes out and goes, "You're a bad boy!" Ha 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 ha, and explodes.
That's right.
Wow.
It's the same thing.
I'm going to need to rewatch The Great Mouse Detective now.
It's wonderful.
Isn't that the one that had like a secret, like the animator like put a secret like penis into the animation?
No, you're thinking of Rescuers, the other mouse-based, and there's just a porno mag. You fully see like
that's right. It's like one frame of a porno.
Yeah, like a naked. They're outside in a dumpster and they're like talking in an apartment in the background. This guy's like watching a dirty movie. Like, what was going on at Disney?
There's like montage. You can look up like a compilation on YouTube of like Disney animators just being bored and being like, what can I get away with by writing like the cloud spelling out SEX in Lion King for like a frame,
All
Good
of that
kids
take
off their clothes.
That's
Do you remember that one? Good kids take off their clothes.
That was like, if you reverse the audio, he's saying, good kids take off their clothes.
Yeah, that was a whole rabbit hole of weird Disney shit, which I'm sure is scrubbed on Disney Plus, so you got to find the YouTube.
Yeah. I think, but literally, I think most of that was just an overworked Disney animator being like, I'm going to put this in here just for fun and see if anyone catches it.
Lost my mind that I've been animating these rats all day. That time I put some of my jack off stuff in here. Okay.
Put one side.
Yeah.
You got it, man.
Yeah, wild stuff. But
none of that here. Lupin does this whole thing. It distracts everybody. And basically he takes Clarice and saves the day, except the count.
Yeah, they run away.
It's the rings.
To the big clock tower. They go inside the clock tower with all the gears moving and stuff. And so they're climbing all over the gears. And the count's basically chasing them. He's like, well, if you don't want to marry me, then I'm just going to kill you and take the ring instead, Clarice. And eventually
you get all the way to the face of the clock tower. Like we're on the hands of the clock.
Yes.
And I think Lupin tricks him again because he does give him the real ring, And so the Count is finally like, yes, I can finally put the rings together and find the secret treasure and everything. And then when he does that, it causes the hands of the clock to strike midnight. And he, of course, is at the top of the clock. So the hands come up and basically squish him and I think decapitate him. They don't show it, but
I think
it's
maybe
implied.
he gets flattened. I don't know, but yeah, they
Yeah.
cut to
Yeah,
a
I would
wide.
assume flattened, unfortunately.
But
Yeah.
it's a very like stylish kind of editing choice because like you're not going to show it in this, so they have the close up,
Right.
we're seeing it, and then they
Yes.
cut to that wide, and then it just goes, and it's like, damn, Miyazaki, okay.
And the Count
And to
gets
be
killed.
The Count.
totally fair while this is happening, Gaomon and tell me the other guy's name again real quick.
Jigen.
Jigen,
Vegan are fighting the goons, and this is where we
Yes.
do see Gaomon.
Put that
or Gaomon-
sniper rifle together and stuff.
Yes, dude,
Yeah.
that sniper rifle was awesome. But this is where Gaomon cuts one of the guys and does reveal the little mustache guys underneath.
Yes, he finally
Yeah.
gets to do a cool samurai thing and fight
Yeah.
these little guys, and he just
Yep,
um,
tears him up.
yeah.
Clarice and Lupin fall into
yes,
the water below.
it's the water.
Yes.
But
yeah.
the secret of the castle is revealed to be when he puts the rings together. The water sort of drains and reveals the lost, hidden, ancient Roman city that's underneath the castle. And that's
Of
the treasure.
Cagliostro?
It's not
I
really
guess.
clear.
I think they inherited the Roman
Yeah.
land.
They had
like
this
that's-
Roman city, and they're like,
they
"This
own
is
it,
too
yeah.
much treasure
But
for anyone.
why did
We
they
need to
build a
flood it."
castle over it?
It flooded.
That
I
was a little
think.
confusing to me. I mean, there's a
Over
couple
a
of
whole
plot points that are
city.
confusing.
What I
It's like
think
the lost city of Atlantis or something.
I think they said like, okay, when Rome kind of dipped out of here, they built the dam and the aqueduct and flooded it to like hide it.
To
And
hide
then-
it from anyone because it would be too much treasure for anyone to have, so they wanted to hide it
Yeah.
underwater.
So the castle's existence was basically to hide underwater the Roman city.
Which I guess is a treasure to have a
Well,
abandoned Roman city.
they do kind of allude to it in the beginning, which I like because they're like, all right, look at that Roman sluiceway, and they deliberately say
right.
Roman, and it's like, oh, that's gonna pay
That's
off.
right.
The
So-
aqueduct.
That's right, Mike. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so I like that. The aqueduct.
Yeah, Rome, I believe, did invent the aqueduct, which is those
Mhm.
raised bridges for water, so they can
They
for
invented
irrigation
plumbing,
for farmland. Yeah, and for
Drive over
plumbing.
one every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, so then we get them walking around the city, like Lupin and
They're just having a touching little
Clarice.
moment here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is
I saved you, princess.
beautifully animated.
Yeah,
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 and it's even like you get a hint of it when Lupin's on the water in that little gazebo thing, but now it's like full on Roman, like it's still wet, things are glistening in the
Right.
sun, like it's really great looking.
yeah.
Well, you own all this now, and you're legally married to that guy, but because he's dead, you're technically the queen of Cagliostro. And
Yeah.
that's how it is. And the
Cagliostro's in good
groundskeeper
hands.
runs up. We see the dog, and
Carl,
she says,
I
"But
love
I
you,
don't
Carl.
want any of this. I want to be a thief with you." He says,
Take me with you.
"I've always loved you like a sister."
Yeah,
Basically throwing herself
Truly.
at him and she's a younger girl than obviously there's
Yeah.
an age difference between
Oh,
them.
you
but she's
pray she's 15. You're crossing your
Yeah.
fingers that she's as old as 15.
Indiana Jones was
Yeah, she's like,
inspired
take me
by
with
this.
you. I'll do whatever
Yeah.
you want. I don't want to be a thief, but I'll do it for you, Lupin, because I love you so much. And he's like, yeah, I love you like
You
a
know what?
sister.
This
Goodbye.
has been great. And I've been putting out intense vibes and signals, but you know what? Not happening.
not
Even though I
happening.
said
And then-
I would rob you.
Which is good. Yeah. And then she's like, will I ever see you again? And he's like, probably not. Goodbye.
Yeah,
He drives away with Jigan and everybody, and they've got money, they've gotten some of the treasure, and they are a little happy or whatever, right? And Zangetsu comes up.
Yeah,
Is that
Zenigata.
his name? Zenigata. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Zenigata comes up.
Like minutes
And
after they
it's
leave,
like-
it's like, oh, where'd Lupin go?
What? Where's
Yeah.
that Lupin? I must get
I'm
that
not catching
Lupin.
him.
Well, at the end of the day, he really didn't even do that much or steal anything. Well, he stole the worst thing
A
of all, the
criminal.
most valuable treasure that there could be. And he
Your
kind of takes his hat off and puts it over his heart and goes,
lady.
"Your heart." And yes, he does. And then he does that, and then he gives her a wink, and she blushes and goes, "Oh my!" And he goes, "All right, I gotta go."
yeah,
All right, I'm hot on his trail. Goodbye.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It is one of the best moments in movie history that they're both so happy by the silly thing that he says.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It sums up this whole movie. Like it's great writing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Right. And then as Lupin's leaving in his little Fiat, Fujiko shows up on her motorcycle and it's like, "Hey, I got the plates for the counterfeit money." He's like, "Oh, you want to share those with me, right?" And she's like, "Nah," and she just leaves basically.
Yep,
So
yep.
once again, she gets the upper hand on Lupin.
But also, yeah, I love that it's set up. She's like, I'm the cameraman. I'm going to follow the inspector down. We got his
Right.
footage. And as soon as
Exposing
he's
them
like,
for counterfeiting and then takes the
yeah.
counterfeit.
And then she gets to
but
grab the
finding
plates.
the plates, yeah, being right
Yeah.
there.
She's
for
in the
him.
right
Yeah,
place
you're
for
right.
it. So it's
Yeah.
that's
Classic
all part of her
Catwoman
plan
stuff.
too.
Working
Yeah.
with the good guys for
Classic
a bit.
Catwoman stuff.
Yeah, classic. Did you like the beat though? Yeah, like when Lupin's saying goodbye to Clarice, and she like closes her eyes to give him a kiss, and he's just like, "Nope, forehead. I'm out of here." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Thank
that's
God.
because
Thank
she's
God."
leaning in for a kiss, and you're like, "Oh, are they going to do it?" And he's like,
like-
"I'll kiss your forehead."
And leave
Yeah.
forever. Yeah, I'm glad that they did that.
Miyazaki, I wonder if I'll eat these words. Not a plethora of inappropriate relationships in his stuff, actually. For again, how
Usually
sometimes that's
not.
considered an anime.
There's
trope.
sometimes
Right.
hints of questionable things. Like we'll get into it next month with Nausicaa. Like, how old is Nausicaa supposed to be? Is she 18? It's not really clear.
But is there?
Uh,
That's been a long time since I've seen that one. Is she
Yeah.
into Patrick Stewart in that one?
Not Patrick Stewart, but I think there is some. Well, first of all, I mean, we'll talk about it next month. But like her clothes that she wears like tan pants that almost look like she's not wearing pants. Which
Oh,
is
I
very
don't remember
questionable.
any of this.
Oh,
I'm
geez.
so excited,
Yeah.
Jacob.
I have not
So-
seen that
I'd
one
wear a
before.
camo
Thankfully she is
bodysuit.
We need more of those.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Nausicaa
There's
because I love that one a
age-appropriate
lot.
relationships. A lot
Yeah.
of these are about love and romance and how important that.
Well, in a
feeling
lot
is.
of
mhm.
Miyazaki's films, the protagonist is usually a young girl or a young
Yes.
teenage woman,
Mhm.
sort of going on some kind of adventure.
Right.
So he has a lot of young female protagonists. So that'll be a recurring theme
Going
as well.
forward, Clarice is the prototypical. This
Mm.
and Momonosuke are some of the only ones that are so totally male-driven. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, Boy and the
Mm.
Heron. That's got a
Well,
boy.
Well, that's
in
called The Girl in the Heron. You're
Right.
mistaken for that title.
it. Yeah,
One thing I did like about her character in this is like she is very much princess needing to be saved, but during the clock tower stuff and the escape, she's like pushing Lupin out of the way
Yes.
because he's like
Yeah.
not even paying attention.
He
She's
saves
acting.
his life 3 times in
Yeah.
this movie, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's
pretty sure
great.
some of those goons do get squished by the gears. Like they
Yeah.
imply, like, oh, that guy just died.
Yeah, that he absolutely did.
Well, ever being a
Yeah.
goon dog, I don't know what to tell you.
You don't want to be a goon. But
Yeah,
again,
he
the
did get
violence,
squished.
the violence and things like that does seem a little toned down again compared to Mysteries of Mama, which is the only thing I have to go off of. Where definitely people are dying more in more explicit ways. And at one point,
Clones of Hitler.
yeah, there's clones of Hitler. He goes to Dracula's castle. He goes to the Egyptian pyramids in this one, so it's pretty kind
you're-
of all over the place.
Oh, Colin, you wouldn't even like this movie. It's not even good at all. I mean, yeah, they go to Dracula's castle. What are you
It's-
doing? What is this
It's harder to
gaslighting you're
follow.
doing? What is
Yeah.
this?
I think he's a sleeper agent
it's
for the Lupin
pretty
franchise
interesting
at
to
this
watch,
point.
but I do want to watch more of them and just to see which ones are worth watching, and maybe I'll report back next
On
week
Watch or
up
something.
top and say like, yeah, I've caught
By
up.
the
on
way, we all
everything.
have a sickness. And it's Lupin madness.
Lupus. We all got
Yeah.
lupus.
We all
Really
got
into
the
Lupin.
lupus.
We got lupus.
Wow.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm turning into a wolf over here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that has been the adventure of a gentleman thief stealing our hearts. I say now we go to our final thoughts and wrap things up here talking Castle of Cagliostro, Lupin the Third on Normies Like Us. Milady.
Well, lady.
Guys, this is a meme. Guys be thinking they Lupin the Third, but really, and then you post, like Jabba the Hutt or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Because this is what a gentleman thief. This is what people think they are.
Right.
I'm like a cad. I'm like a
charming.
charming
Yeah.
guy.
Well, that's the thing
Mhm.
with this one. Yeah, he's more of a charming ladies' man trying to flirt with different ladies and stuff. Again, in the Mysteries of Mamu, he's more like a wooga wooga, I'm horny kind
Right.
of thing.
But is this, and because I invoked them earlier, and we are back, we're wrapping up our thoughts here. Talking Hayao Miyazaki in the first of our long form series covering his films, we just covered his first film, Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro. Because I invoked them earlier, Marvel movies. Don't you think this is a prototypical Marvel movie? Like, don't you feel like they're drawing so much on? It's a small ensemble of people doing like an adventure thing that's like action comedy forward with a charming huckster at the center of it.
This is
Yeah.
Ant-Man.
You see that? Yeah. I still think like the James Bond influence / Mission Impossible, like they very much feel like these spy thrillers. And the James Bond, the style, again, like in Mysteries Mama, he has that. He doesn't have, and I'm reading this from the Wikipedia, but in Cagliostro, they do have a Fiat 500.
Wow.
As opposed to his normal car, which is, I just read it, a Mercedes-Benz SSK. Which he says he drives because it was, again, Hitler's favorite. So I don't know what.
What's this now? What's all this cooking in the background? I don't I watched this away. This is not my Lupin. I don't know
I'm
anything
upset
about this.
with people who complain about this depiction of Lupin and Cagliostro because it seems like the best one.
This is the good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's with these Nazis who are like, yo, my Lupin's not given the Sieg Heil enough?
Yeah.
What is this?
Again, from the
Lupin's not
Wikipedia, Castle
Elon-coded
Cagliostro's portrayal of the characters was changed to better identify with Miyazaki's concept of a hero and to remove a sense of apathy in the story. This resulted in Lupin being a happy-go-lucky and upbeat thief who drives and lives out of the Fiat 500, a sharp contrast to the scheming and lecherous Lupin who drives expensive cars like the Mercedes-Benz SSK because it was Hitler's favorite. The changes would also impact secondary characters like Jigen and Goemon, changing their serious and cold personalities into friendly and humorous.
Whoa.
Even the erotic
They're the best.
They're having so much fun when they got to break the windshield and swerving around. Yeah, they're just fun dudes.
Yes. So Miyazaki had this totally revolutionary idea where he was like, movies should star good guys. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It is like James Bond, where different portrayals of him throughout the era kind of like you have the Roger Moore era, which is a lot more lighthearted and goofy, versus the Daniel Craig, very gritty and serious, like totally two different tones in the same franchise, from two different eras.
And then Sean Connery, the lecherous, Nazi.
Yeah.
right.
Sean Connery, maybe some things didn't age well from that era. You have the Pierce Brosnan over the top, like gadgets and stuff, to the Daniel Craig, to whatever comes next. So it depends on the creators at the time and the era. So the different
Martini. Tones. Shaken, not stirred. It was Hitler's favorite.
Oh, man.
That's why I would compare Mysteries of
Bond.
James feels very like 60s Bond to me. His style and the globe-trotting adventure of it all. And again, Fujiko, the Bond girl of this movie, is so different from the Fujiko in this movie.
Not my Fujiko.
No, my Fujiko's in a camo.
But she's kind of like the later, but like the 90s Bond girls who have some agency and are doing things in some of the movies.
Like Jinx?
Is that Halle
like Halle Berry's Jinx, Jacob?
Yeah, a lot like Jinx.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, let me say, when it comes to this movie, first Miyazaki ever, right?
Yes.
When the movie ends, first of all, like they drive away from the castle and then we see like the seaside city with skyscrapers and like we're back to reality. Like I do feel like we're transported to a fairy tale world for a big portion of this.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I love
around
the
this
tone of it.
Gothic castle, this spooky Gothic castle. I think here you see Miyazaki. Of course, this was a job for hire where he's very much an up and coming animator. Doesn't have the clout yet to like make his own movies. So he's like, yeah, I got my start doing Lupin anime. Let me make a Lupin movie and make it the way I want to make it. And of course, that led to bigger and better things over time, where he eventually would be making his own movies.
Well, I think
so. It's a very important step in his career, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and his instincts I really like, because hearing this other Lupin, like I'm fascinated to maybe check out the movie just for contrast. But I like fun Jigen and fun Goemon. I like this version of them. They're very fun to be around. I want to spend more time with this set. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish we got more Miyazaki Lupin movies or like continuing adventures, because I do want more now.
It's just so fun. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Camera woman gimmick, all that stuff is just great. So I like this movie a lot on second viewing.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is my first viewing. And now that I've seen every Miyazaki movie, I can say that he does have no skips and he does have all bangers. And he
Hey,
has
there you go. So if you
an
skip this
impeccable
because it's a
filmography.
franchise, yeah, watch it.
Yes.
Sorry. What of his tropes make their way into this? What did you recognize that are like sort of his
Right.
touchstones? You know, weird
Strong
Well,
airplanes.
female character,
weird
obviously not
airplanes,
the
young
lead.
female character, yes.
Beautifully animated
Nature
food, nature, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
and
water.
man's relationship to nature. Um, yeah, flying obviously is a big
When
one.
that scene where Lupin's in the car driving and he hits that puff of the cigarette and he says, Goro will never achieve the things I achieved. And you're like, oh, Lupin, why
Lupin.
would you say that about your son?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even when they're driving in the car, just hanging out, having a good time, camping on the side of the road, cooking up some food over a fire, I'm like, yeah, this seems like the good life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. I like the setups and payoffs. Like I said, the Roman aqueduct. There's Lupin trying to light the rocket on the roof, but his lighter doesn't work. And then later, when he
Yeah,
meets Zenigata, he's like, "You got a light?" It's like even something as little as my lighter being broken is like carried through and paid off. Like it's a good
yes,
Yes,
script. I really like
that's
the
a
script a
great,
lot, and it's paced really well too.
great point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
just a fun little action
Well,
heist movie.
yeah, and next month, of course, we'll be talking Miyazaki's next film, which will be Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is based on a manga that he made. Because after this movie, kind of
His
wasn't
only
getting
manga.
jobs actually for a few years. Like he was looking
Wow.
for work, and he's like, "Well, I'm not getting animation jobs right now. I might as well create a manga based on my love of nature and conservation, and then adapt that manga into a film." And that's what we'll be talking about next month.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, I'm looking forward to completing this journey of
Absolutely.
Miyazaki
I'm glad
during
we're
this
doing it.
great outing.
There's definitely no other podcast that mainly focuses on the entire
Mm,
filmography of a specific filmmaker
mm.
uh, that I may have stole this idea from. That definitely is not a thing that
Not
exists.
what we're doing here. We don't typically do this. It's just a fun
No,
experiment for
it's not
us.
our full time thing. But
No, but we thought of also because of like the AI filter. It's like, man, that sucks. Let's celebrate some
That's
actual art, you know?
Mike, and
yeah,
of
that
course, that
is
was the impetus that kicked it off. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, let's celebrate this
right.
guy who has
It's
no skips, as Jacob said. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to reduce Miyazaki to this AI, AI will turn your picture into an anime frame. Like Miyazaki is so much more than just the art style, and like that art style doesn't even look like that much. Like that's just generic anime to me. Like this AI trend right now. Like what makes that Miyazaki specifically?
Can't even
Um,
tell. You can't even tell that I made this on a computer.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
really.
So obviously, I hate that, and Miyazaki himself would hate that. I hope he never finds out about it. I hope he stays away
Oh,
from
he
the
knows
internet
about
because
it.
He
it'll
He
knows.
know.
definitely
He
kill
knows.
him.
Goro sent him a family photo that was
Yeah, yeah.
translated.
Yeah, Goro uses it. He's like, it's
Yeah.
good. It looks
Check
good.
this out, Dad.
I like to. I imagine Miyazaki's like very offline,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping he avoids all that because it might just like stop his heart and fucking kill him once and for all, which I hope doesn't happen because he is kind
No.
of
Oh,
an older guy.
Jesus.
He just
Yeah,
wishes to be a cat. But
He
yeah,
does.
so do I kind of.
Oh, two very quick final thoughts. Again, my beloved Eiichiro Oda, who I think's the greatest creator in the world, has only ever talked about two films in his life
Mm.
as being his favorites, and it is this film and Pulp Fiction.
Wow. Okay.
So, again, a guy who kind of was raised in the 90s. Yeah,
of
you
course.
kind of see that.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I mean,
And I want to.
I feel like this movie is so influential to so many people. Like so many people have taken influences from this movie specifically
Oh,
over
how
the
can they not?
years. Yeah.
This film is also one of the best pull the eyes out of a painting and look through the eyes, the eye
Yeah.
holes movies ever
And very
made.
Scooby Doo-ish.
Three
Yeah.
It's
Stooges.
one of those things where, as a kid, were the three things I thought I would have to interact with. I was like, I'm gonna have to face quicksand one day. One
Mm-hmm.
day, I'm gonna have to know how to get out of an avalanche. And three, I'll probably be in a really spooky place, and I should pay attention to the paintings because they're gonna be looking at me with the eye holes.
Yeah. There's gonna be
Yeah.
eye holes in the paintings. There's gonna be suits of armor that are moving.
None of that.
Uh,
None of that will ever happen to me.
yeah.
Yeah. There'll be a fireplace with a book. It'll rotate around. Yeah.
Honestly, this is what I want. Now that I think of it, Scooby Doo. There should be a Lupin meets Scooby-Doo meets Lupin the Third movie. I don't know why that doesn't exist. There was never that crossover with
That's
Western
a
animation.
really good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get AI
There
to
should
work
be
on
a
it.
Castle of Cagliostro escape room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta
We need to bring this
find the
movie
rings.
back into the zeitgeist, have people talking about it.
Well, here's something too
Um,
about this. Remember, 79. This is still the era of 100% hand-drawn animation
Yeah.
cells. Like we're not doing anything on the computer at this point. Like when we were talking about art, this is actual art, frame by frame. Like and it
Yeah.
it still holds up too. I'd say.
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't feel dated at all, which some people might be like,
You just
old
look
movie.
at there's shots where
Yeah.
like where their backs turned and they're looking at the horizon, and Clarice is watching the car go away and she's waving. And what did you say the dog's name is, Jacob?
Carl.
Carl. And Carl is
Carl
next
Barks.
to her.
Carl Barks.
Barks, Mike. How dare you? And
Thank
Carl
you.
Barks from behind, you just see him, and he's basically just the shape of a cello. Like that's how he's animated. There's no detail on him. It's just color. Like sometimes Miyazaki just knows, like, I can give you the hint or the idea of something. Like it's so fucking fascinating how this movie's animated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
And
again, if you look at the
that's-
other Lupin movies, like the animation quality is noticeably better in this one than Mysteries of Mamo and even Curse of Babylon in '85 and some of the other movies where they really didn't have that good animation. So
Failure at the box office.
Oh,
Mm.
bummer.
Did not make a lot of money.
Okay.
well, probably it became a cult hit later, and that it's so influential, and people are like, you know what was really good? That Lupin III Cagliostro.
Did you ever see the second? It was weird, right? Him and that little girl that he says goodbye to and kisses on the forehead. Not me. I like the Hitler one better.
Right.
And obviously, this
All
also
right.
it didn't have a Western release for a while. Like it was not
Yeah.
known until 2000s. It was sort of re-released in the West and made a little bit of money, not that much, but
I would almost guarantee until Wikipedia exists that nobody even connects that this is a Miyazaki movie.
Right.
yeah. Well, I guess yeah, some people, but this is kind of what it's known for out of all the Lupin movies. Is this one was the Miyazaki one, and where he got his start, and then moved on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, and I want to kind of bring up too the other big animes of the early 80s or something like a Ghost in the Shell or an Akira, Vampire Hunter D or something, right? Those are all like violent and sexy and like dangerous. This
Yeah.
is like an amazing just family fun romp.
It's-
Like
it's an adventure.
Hayao was like, I'm not interested in any of that bullshit. I want to make a fun family movie, damn it. And like it
But have you
stands
been
apart.
to a castle and thought of shenanigans? And you're like,
Yeah.
I guess this one's about a naked robot lady asking if she's got a soul. He's
Yeah.
like, no.
No, we're gonna do shenanigans in a castle. It really
Yeah.
stands apart in that way, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, yeah, it was not a box office success at first, but it did develop a cult following. And through numerous re-releases and things, it was even voted the best anime in history by the readers of Animage in November 2001, beating out
Wow.
movies like Akira and Ghost in the Shell.
That's insane.
So
That's
it's very, very well received today. Even Monkey Punch, the creator of Lupin the Third, liked it, but said he agreed that it is a different vision of Lupin than his own. And a lot of the hardcore Lupin fans don't like it again because of the changes
Mhm.
to the way he's portrayed, depicting a heroic and selfless Lupin instead of a ruthless criminal.
When I
No.
envisioned creating Lupin after naming myself Monkey Punch, I saw a lot more Hitler stuff, and this film just does not have that. So,
Yeah.
Elon Musk
yeah.
does not like this version of Lupin.
no.
Not one bit.
Several
I
critics
love
have
it, though.
noticed similarities between Castle of Cagliostro and Indiana Jones films, particularly Raiders of the Lost Ark. So there is some Indiana Jones similarities there as well.
Do you think that's what it was, Jacob, that Elon was speaking at the RNC and then saw a clone in the audience and he knew that it was the clone of Hitler, and he was like, well, I got to do the salute.
Probably.
It's a reference to my favorite Lupin movie, The Mystery of
This is,
Mama.
this is
The
a
boys from Brazil, right?
this is a hoot.
Oh, man.
Wow.
What a timeline.
I also want to mention this fun fact that I came across that
Please.
there is a Laserdisc video game called Cliffhanger which was released in 1983 in the West.
Not Sliced Alone.
Not the Sly Stallone
Just
movie.
cliffhanger, huh?
But this cliffhanger used footage from Cagliostro as well as Mystery of Mamo in this game, which is basically retells the story of Cagliostro, but without using the Lupin name, where you follow the hero Cliffhanger as he attempts to rescue Clarissa from the evil Count
Do you
Draco.
see Cliffhanger? Like, is it just Lupin?
It's just Lupin, but they call him Cliffhanger.
And of course,
I'm Laserdisc
see,
video game.
That's the dub you watched, Jacob. And I'm
Whoa.
Cliffhanger, baby. So come
apparently
here,
this-
hot cheeks.
You can call me
This
Cliff.
game was very important because the films at that time weren't available in North America. So a lot of Western audience found Lupin the Third through this video game Cliffhanger.
Wild.
Yo,
Wild,
you guys know
wild,
my
wild.
favorite Miyazaki movie? The video game Cliffhanger.
Yeah, dude, it's slaps.
What?
And I'm reading here, The Great Mouse Detective 1986 paid homage to Cagliostro with the film's climactic Big Band
Homage.
sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did a lot of homaging.
Great artist steal,
Right.
just like Lupin.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Another reference is in the Batman animated series episode The Clock King.
Wow. That clock tower
yeah.
scene.
Very influential.
It is a really good scene for what it's worth.
It really
is.
is.
Tying gears.
Wow.
Sword fighting, swinging on pipes and stuff. Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
Mhm.
So
All
everyone
right.
check out Lupin the Third, the Castle of Cagliostro. We give it 3 thumbs up.
Absolutely.
3 big thumbs up. 3 big booms. 5 big booms.
Five big
Yeah,
films.
5 big
We
films.
hope you're excited to follow along for this new miniseries. We hope you enjoyed this film. Jacob, what's coming up next? What is next?
Well, next week it's going to be the first week of May. It's going to be May.
Gotta be-
And
We're
oh,
doing
by the
it.
way,
Social
I-
network. We're doing it.
All Justin Timberlake.
It's finally time.
yeah,
The Trolls movies. We're doing it.
Finally.
Jumper. I by the way, I did want to mention we did Planet of the April last
Mhm.
April. This time we're doing Hayao Miyazaki.
Hey.
So there you go. But
I like
Happy
next week,
Miyazaki, guys.
Happy
Happy
Miyazaki. But next week specifically, we have a new release coming out, a new Marvel called Thunderbolts Asterisk. So that's what we'll be
Mhm.
talking about next week. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully we like it. We'll see what happens.
I'm pretty sure it's not going to be as good as The Count of Cagliostro, but hopefully
Probably
it's enjoyable.
not.
I
Yeah.
don't think there's many things that are. I really like this movie, so.
It was
I'm
really good.
excited
And
for
again, I
the-
was like, hadn't seen it. I was thought, this has got to be like one of the weaker points of Miyazaki's filmography. But I don't think so. I think it's really still stands up. It aged very well, I think, from being 1979. And yeah, I loved it. So
Oh,
Yeah.
spoiler alert. It's going to shake out pretty high in my rankings. Also, I guess we saved this for a whatcha. We never did our apes rankings after saying we were going to do it.
Wow.
do
Okay.
that next whatcha?
We'll bring it around. Yep.
I
Yeah,
just try to remember.
April.
that's right.
April.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day you'll get our apes rankings, normies,
Yep.
if you're lucky.
If you're
Yeah.
lucky.
If
You
give me
went on
both
that whole
rings.
ride with us. You don't deserve to know what we thought of them.
No,
That's right.
no. It was only 6-7 months.
Yep.
I'm going to try to
was a
write
year,
Letterboxd.
Mike.
It was a year. It was a whole time. But
It was a
my
full
goal
year, yeah.
for
13 months, I
Miyazaki,
think.
at least, is I want to write one Letterboxd for each Miyazaki because I finally wrote a review for
Oh,
Sinners, so I'm going to write up one of those later
Wow.
today. I hope.
Hell yeah.
We'll see.
I'm excited.
Well, that's the Castle of Cagliostro, Lupin the Third.
Mhm.
So stay tuned next week for Thunderbolts Asterisk, and next month, end of next month, for Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind,
Wow.
and some
Wow.
other stuff in between.
All right. Hell yeah. We done did
Hit
it.
us up on
Miyazaki.
socials.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, hit us up on socials. Check out our YouTube to see our beautiful faces and to see Mike's incredible suit, looking like
Yeah,
$1
come
million
on.
bucks, looking like a master thief.
I
It's
wore
gonna
a
steal
tie
my
bar,
heart.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys coming out.
There it is.
for the-
Jacob, just
I'm gonna
pull that hat down over your
I'm gonna dress
eyes.
like
And of
vegan
course,
for
I'll just do
Halloween.
this offensive
There we
top
go.
knot real quick.
Yeah, we could do a group costume. You could be you could be the samurai
You got the
Goemon,
long hair now. You're
you
the
could-
samurai.
That's true.
I like jumpsuits though, so I could do the camo onesie and do Fujiko if I really
There we
wanted to.
Yeah, Colin, you've got the beard. You can do Jigen, have his beard and his
There we
hat.
go.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
Shave
grow out
him
your
mustache.
sideburns though, Mike, for Lupin.
Yeah, that's true. Just these. I'll work on it.
Got the flat black hair and then long
Art-
sideburns.
The top of the Wikipedia page is, of course, he's known for his flat widow's peak and long sideburns. So I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I
Very
don't know about that,
60s.
Lupin. Yeah.
No, he's great.
All right. Well, we've been your hosts. This is Colin Giostrogo.
This is Mike of Mamo.
This is Daisuke Jaken.
Hey, I like it.
Jigen.
Mm-hmm.
See you later, normies. Have a good one.
See you later,
Game
Normies.
on.
Have game on.
He came on.
Car. It's a Fiat 500.
I love it.
All right. Bye.
And there's a little monster.
Lupin the Cookie Cat.